What is the courage award?
It's
Got no slide, no
no,
nothing.
there's no slide.
That OF thing on the QF for your iPad or anything?
No, Rhonda said if she wanted to pull more photos, she would, but then she didn't.
Jason? Okay, I'll see what we can figure out.
We had technical difficulties. My laptop died last night.
Good morning, and welcome to the April Commission meeting of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission. Welcome to the sportsmen and women, and welcome to the viewers online. I'd like to remind the commissioners of the mission statement of the commission: to preserve, conserve, manage, protect, and enhance the fish and wildlife of the state and their habitats for the use, benefit, and enjoyment of the citizens of Tennessee and its visitors. The agency will foster the safe use of the state's waters through a program of law enforcement, education, and access. Commissioner Butt, would you please lead us in the pledge and the invocation?
Pray. Our God and Father in heaven, we thank thee for this privilege that we have to approach thy throne through thy Son, Jesus Christ. We recognize thee as Almighty God and exalt thy name above every name upon this earth. We would ask thy blessings upon this gathering this day, the business of the commission, protection of the wildlife, and your resources upon this great earth. Bless each person here and protect them as they travel back to their homes. Watch over and care for us. All this we ask in Christ's most holy name. Amen.
We'd like to welcome several visitors here today. We have Fred Walker, Clarence and Laura Dyes, Wayne and Tina Rich, Jimmy Granberry, Tom Beasley, Tricia Bridges, Tawana McDaniel, Greg McDaniel, Joe Justice, Dan Newhouse, Lynn Brown, Fred Moody, Bryce Randolph, Ann Ayers, Sheila Westray, Cheyenne Westray, Natalie and Clayton and David Penner, Will Penner, Dixie Hammond, Scott D'Amico, Angela D'Amico, Jeff Cotner, Paul Russell, Wally Arns, Mike Walters, Josie Miller, Bill Pretty, Vic Wallace, Hannah Wright, Mike Butler, Logan Longmire, Macaulay Pans, Richard Allen, Bill Smith, and Keith Carver. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. I would like to call on Commissioner Box to introduce some special guests from UT that we have here today. And thank you so much for allowing us to use your campus. We really appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Chairman. For most of my life, when I thought about the University of Tennessee, I thought about my experience as a student here, or I thought about UT football. But over the past 6 years, I've come to have a completely different perspective on UT and the entire system. If you live in Tennessee, UT touches every single aspect of your life. That is not an overstatement. Every single aspect of your life. The air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, even the grass on your soccer field are all impacted, shaped, and improved by UT. Your doctor, your accountant, your nurse, your engineer, your physical therapist, your architect, your counselor, your attorney. The power in your home, the security through your military are all shaped by UT. And importantly, for our meeting here today, your wildlife biologists, your leaders in conservation, your game wardens, even our beloved director, Maxedon, the people that keep your lakes, your natural areas, your WMAs, your refuges, other public places safe and secure were trained, educated, and prepared to serve by the University of Tennessee. Over 5 years ago, I first heard President Randy Boyd say that this decade would be the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee. I must admit that at the time I heard him say that, the first time, I thought, man, that's overly ambitious and maybe even unrealistic. And actually, that statement has proven true as we sit here right now, and we're only halfway through that decade. President Boyd and his leadership team have reached or exceeded my wildest hopes and expectations of what that goal might mean. President Boyd and two of his leaders are here with us this morning. Chancellor Donnie Plowman and Vice Chancellor Keith Carver. And I would ask all three of them to stand. UT is leading the nation among all universities in every measurable way. If you look at the metrics, we are absolutely knocking it out of the park. Today is really special for me because after my faith and my family, UT and Tennessee's wildlife and outdoors are the most important parts of my life. Tennessee Wildlife and UT have been partners for decades. They work together to protect, preserve, and provide access to our state's amazing outdoor resources and wildlife. But we can do more. And I call on all these fellow commissioners. I call on UT and TWRA leadership to search and find new ways, creative ways that we can collaborate to improve the future of our state's amazing wildlife resources and maximize access for all Tennesseans. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Box. That was very inspiring, and we appreciate it very much. Moving forward, Ms. Giuliani, would you call the roll, please?
Monty Ballou, Brad Box,
Here.
Stan Butt, Greg Davenport, Chris Devaney, Steve Johnson, Steve Jones, Ford Little, John McCarty, Rosemary McElhaney, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Hans Torbett. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Giuliani. Commissioners, you've been provided a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. I will entertain a motion for approval. Can I get a second? Minutes approved. Director Maxedon, you are recognized. Please come to the podium.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, do you mind if I yield and we ask President Boyd? I know the leadership, excuse me, sir, would like to say a few words this morning. We'd like to ask them to come forward first, if that's okay with you, sir.
Certainly.
Yes, sir. President Boyd, we'd love to have you come up.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to the University of Tennessee. We're excited to have you here today. I'm going to tag team with my counterparts, Chancellor Plowman and Vice Chancellor Keith Carver. But I'm going to give you just a couple of quick comments, and then I'll let Dondi actually welcome you to her campus, and then Keith welcome you to his part of the UT campus. But I think a repetition is a good thing. This will be the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee. And it's going to be that because of the great leadership that we have. And the great team and faculty we have all across the state of Tennessee and all of our partnerships. I want to say a word about partnerships in just a moment, but a quick commercial message about the University of Tennessee. In case you haven't heard, one of the ways in which we're going to make it this the greatest decade is by serving the people of Tennessee in a lot of ways, one of which is growing our enrollment. As you may have heard, we've been having record enrollment growth all across the state of Tennessee. In 2020, we had 52,000 students. This last year, we finished at 65,000. Our goal by the end of 2030 is 85,000. Now, we're not growing for our ego or for rankings. It's because that's how we can serve the people of Tennessee better. One of the challenges that we have in this role is all the parents and all the students that call us every year wanting to get into the University of Tennessee. And unfortunately, we just can't accept them all. So we need to grow to provide more opportunity to those families. We know if they come to the University of Tennessee, they're going to have a great education and go off to have a great career. At the same time, our employers all across the state are desperate for the talent that we provide. So those reasons why we're growing. We're also dedicated to making sure our students graduate with very low debt. Something that's a popular myth, and I'm going to ask our partners at TWRA to help us dispel this myth. One of the popular myths out there is that if you go to college, you're going to graduate with all this debt. 55% of our students last year graduated with zero debt. Our goal by the year 2030 is for only or 65% of our students to graduate with no debt. And those that do have debt, last year they had only $24,000 worth of debt. So we're bringing more our education more accessible to more students and more affordable to more students. So that's my commercial message. The other thing I just want to say is TWRA has been such an incredible partner for us. One of the things we've prided ourselves on in this decade is building partnerships with Farm Bureau, with Oak Ridge National Labs, with a lot of other organizations, but there's none that's been more important than the one that we have at TWRA. And last, I would say, appreciate this board and for all the work that you do. I think I've been told many times that the two most coveted board or governor appointments are being on the TWRA commission and on the board of trustees. So Brad Box is currently one of my bosses. Jamie Woodson and David Watson are also one of my bosses. I'm looking here now and thinking probably at least half these guys are going to be my boss in the future. So hopefully we do a great job of being great host for you today. Anyway, thank you so much. I'd like to turn it over to our campus leader, Dottie Plowman.
Well, Randy and I love to show up when we're in front of some of our bosses. So I'm in front of my boss. Brad's one of my bosses. I can't do much without Brad voting to approve it. So thank you, Brad, for being here today. And thank you to Chair for inviting us to say a couple things. You're here. I want to share with you a little bit about this campus and hone in on a couple things that I'm so excited about in Herbert College and in the Vet Med School. That Vet Med School is an asset here that we are so excited about. But you read a lot about higher ed, and you read a lot about us, about sports and football. I'm not talking about that today. So if you don't start getting out your phone, because I'm not going to talk about athletics, I want to share with you three things you may not know about this university. First of all, every 17-year-old in the country wants to come to school here. And that includes every 17-year-old in the state, just about. I've almost stopped wearing orange when I go around the country because people will come up to me in a restaurant or at a meeting at the break and say, I need to talk to you. My granddaughter's trying to get into your school, or my cousin's child is trying to get in there. It's a great time to be a volunteer. Big reason that they're wanting to come here is because what's happening here. The country's paying attention, the state's paying attention. I'm so proud of who we are as a university. I'm going to share with you some unknown facts you probably don't know. So for example, just this morning, we found out that a group of middle schoolers in one of the middle schools in Alcoa, being coached by faculty members in our College of Education on AI, won the regional competition in the President's National Challenge for their presentation about AI. And now they're going on to the national championship. Now that is another example of the modern land-grant university. Faculty in the community, helping families and children understand there's a lot about AI that's good. And it's part of the workforce in the future, and that's part of our responsibility. Another thing I want you to know about this university is that every other year, we ask Gallup to come in and do a survey. on do students feel like they have freedom of expression here. There's a narrative in the country that if you go to a big university, you know, they're going to be brainwashed and they're not going to feel comfortable expressing their views. Both times we've done that survey, 93% of the students surveyed on this campus said, I feel comfortable speaking and voicing my opinions. The national average is 73%. And I read in an article about Ohio State that was in the New York Times yesterday, their number was like 22%. We're doing things differently on this campus. And in that 7%, we even drilled down a bit. The 7% who said, I don't necessarily feel comfortable, about half of them said, I lean right, and half said they lean left. So we feel like we're doing a really good job, and we're proud of that. And I want y'all to know about that. We're growing in every way that you can imagine. We got some big initiatives underway to increase faculty who can help us with the research that matters to the state of Tennessee. And so many of them touch the issues this commission is about. Just yesterday, one of them, and I interview them on the way out the door, every single one of them, because these are big scholars. This woman does biology and statistics, and she's working on infectious disease with veterinary med faculty. The kinds of diseases we don't understand that can take over entire groups of animals and human beings. So much of our work is all intermingled. It's no longer like this discipline, that discipline. Herbert College is growing. We don't have enough room for all the students who want to come here. Vet Med is growing. We're trying to expand the building yet again so that we can have more vet med students and we can house more animals in the hospital. The problems that we have, I always say, are great problems to have. Not enough space, not enough faculty for all the students who want to come here. Let me lift up a couple things about Herbert College of Agriculture. It's growing unbelievably. It's never been on fire like it is now. And I want to thank Keith and his leadership team for everything they're doing. So many important jobs in that area. I hear Keith and some of them say, well, you know, we used to talk about agriculture. What do you say, cows and sows? It's plows. Okay. Sows rhymes too, right? Okay. But there's so many important jobs, food security, food safety, all food productivity, all those things so important. 100% of our Herbert students, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, leave here with having had at least one internship. And I want to thank you all. Much of that's happening because of the work of the people in this room. So we're really super excited about that. I know Keith is going to tell you more about the incredible research we're doing, that when you watch the World Cup this year, you're going to see University of Tennessee. They're the ones that helped grow the grass that's safe for athletes to play on and that can bounce the ball the same way in any setting that it takes on. So I just want to thank you again for being here. This is a university on the move. We're excited about the things that are happening. We want you to keep reaching out to us and let us know how we can be more a part of your agenda as well. So thank you again, and go Vols. It is Big Orange Friday, so we do wear orange on Friday around here. So thank you very much.
Folks, well, good morning. I'm Keith Carver. I've met so many of you, and we're so happy to have you here this morning on Rocky Top. I want to really thank the commissioners. I know how hard you work. As someone who likes to chase turkey and ducks and crappie around, I really appreciate the work you put in so that we can keep Tennessee the great outdoor state that it is. And also, I want to thank Director Maxedon. He is such a phenomenal leader, and I think we owe him a round of applause for all the work he does on behalf of the commission. You know, Jason is a tireless, Director Maxedon. I used to call him Jason before he had all this influence over my job now. So I call him Director. He's got, you all know that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, he is promoting the outdoors. And he came in on Wednesday, and he has an incredible, just infectious personality, and people just drawn to him. So he came to the office to meet with me on Wednesday, and it just so happened my grandson had stopped by, Wilson, who's 2.5. Over the weekend, we took Wilson on his first fishing trip. He's finally old enough. I didn't want to start him on the Snoopy Zebco, so we waited and we got him a little fly rod. He's out there and he caught his first bluegill this weekend. And so I said, Wilson, I said, you need to meet Mr. Maxedon. He's the man that really makes sure that we have, ducks to shoot and that our animals are taken care of and conservation efforts. I said, but most importantly, he advocates for fishermen all over the state. And I could see that really didn't resonate well on a 2.5-year-old. Well, Director Maxedon bent down, true story, bent down and just said, well, Wilson, he said, how big was the fish that you caught on Saturday? And without hesitation, true story, Wilson said, it was this big. And I thought, so I guess that's genetic, folks, that just happens from birth on. But Jason, really do appreciate the way you connect with folks. You do a fantastic job. But what you need to know is how important this group is to the University of Tennessee, specifically the School of Natural Resources. There has not been over the past decade a body, a state or local body, that has contributed more for research for the outdoors than this body, TWRA, over $14 million, and that allows us to do. And some of you saw Dr. Schlebaum's presentation yesterday on White Oak and the work he's doing with seedlings all across the state. That's funded in great part by the work that you all do. So we're really grateful for that. And when you think about it, when you think about the Institute of Agriculture and TWRA, we're really intertwined in all 4 of the units we represent. Obviously, we just talked about Herbert and the School of Natural Resources. Those enrollments are surging. We're excited about it. Is Don Hodges here? Don, are you here? Don's our current director of the School of Natural Resources. He's stepping back to go back to the faculty, but we're interviewing. We've got 3 finalists in for our new school, for our new director for the School of Natural Resources. 3 great candidates. We hope to wrap that up in the next week. And I think when you see that, you'll hear that person. We'll make sure we'll talk. Jason and I talked this week about getting that person out to the August meeting so you all could meet she or he in person when they come on board. So we're really excited about that. While we're sitting here today, while you're in your meeting, we will lose in Tennessee about 50 acres of farmland and forestry in Tennessee. And that's something you're concerned about, certainly something we're concerned about. And our Institute for Farmland and Forestry presentation is a group of economists, researchers, faculty, graduate students that are working to see what we can do to curb and stop that. Because like you, we want to make sure we've got good places to farm and grow food, but also protect our land and our trees. And so something we're working on together. When you think about UT Extension, I want to remind you all that in Tennessee, in every county, all 95 counties, we have an ag and natural resource agent in all 95 counties. Only 2 other states have the comprehensive program that we do, and that's Kentucky and North Carolina. And I may be a little biased, but with my bosses here, I'll say we're better than those folks are. But truly, we're committed to a countywide model, and I know our chancellor and president are committed to that. And we're going to continue to have a specialist in every county that someone can call about the woods, about their forests, about their farmland, about their grass, about their animals, and have someone come out that day or the next and take care of it. I'm going to just talk just briefly about ag research. Some of you may not know, we have 41,000 acres of active research farms across the state. Yes, we're doing great thing, Mr. Butt, with cattle, and we're working with animals all over the state. But you also need to know a big piece of that too is woodlands and ways we can impact that. The most visible is out in Fayette County at Ames. If you've not been to the Ames Research Center, I would love to get you all out there. But we're partnering through some financial contributions and help with your organization. We're working with Tall Timbers out of Tallahassee, Florida, and we are going to restore wild bobwhite quail in Fayette County. We're going to do it, and we've got a great start on it, and we appreciate your help on that. And our students, it's attracting students who from all over who want to come and work with that effort. And then finally, when we talk about the College of Veterinary Medicine, we do, and we want to, we need more people out. When you look at the retirements that are coming up, not Fred Moody. Fred Moody is going to work, what, about 50 more years? Yeah, 50 more years. But other veterinarians, large animal vets across this state are retiring in record numbers. And so, as the chancellor mentioned, we've increased this class. We brought in 100 students. We traditionally bring in 85. We're going to bring in 102 next year. And when we get the expansion, we're going to bring in 125 per class. So surging enrollments there to replace the need in the workforce. But on a daily level, we're hiring faculty that know what to do with deer. They are doing studies with eagles and hawks and birds of prey. They are working on things with wild hogs. And I don't tend to go over there on those days when they bring the wild hogs in. But also black bears. And as we think about the interactions with humans and bears, we know that is just increasing annually. So we're hiring faculty that can really work with research and work with our agencies. So the future's bright. You're in the future business. I know one of the things you all are concerned about right now is recruiting a new generation of people who love the outdoors and love to fish and love to hunt. And guess what? We're in the future business too. And so we're already talking about a few ideas, but I think the next year you'll see some really exciting things come forward that we can work on together through 4-H and our outdoor programs, through better use of some of our extension programs, more access to the College of Veterinary Medicine. And I think they'll be things that we're all very, very proud of. So thank you all so much for being here today, and go Vols. All right.
All right. Well, you can tell the energy level is high in the UT staff. President Boyd, if you've never spent time around him or Dr. Carver, they both have the same energy level. It's way up here. So thank you all so much for being such great hosts this week. Thank you to your staff. They've taken excellent care of us and fed us very well. So thank you, Dr. Carver, for that. And Dr. Carver, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I think I've heard a few of his fishing stories too. He catches the same size fish as Wilson does too. Thank you for that. Y'all have been great leaders and great conservation partners, and we're very thankful for that. I'm going to move into what's going on this week with some of our employees. Want to talk a little bit about that. It's an incredibly busy time of year for our agency. And I want to begin by recognizing a group whose impact is often not seen. These folks are working behind the scenes very much. April is National Public Safety Telecommunications Month, and our TWRA dispatchers deserve a full appreciation for that. You can see our group of dispatchers here on the right on the slide. They're a steady voice in critical situations. The people our officers rely on during emergencies, during severe weather, and everyday incidents where lives are actually on the line. Their work is essential, even though the public rarely gets to see that work. We want them to know how much we value them, how much we love them, what they do for this agency, and what they do for the people of this state. So thank you to all the dispatchers that may be watching online. We're very appreciative of all the hard work and what you put in for us. Also, next week, we're going to celebrate National Administrative Professionals Day. This is our group of administrative professionals that scattered from all across the state in our regional offices and central office. It's another opportunity for us to thank the folks that help this agency moving. Many of these are our front lines on the phones that talk to a lot of our sportsmen and women, and we're very thankful for the hard work that they do every day. We're incredibly fortunate to have a strong group of them in each division. I want to recognize, too, in the director's office. You have Miss Juliana here with you today. Unfortunately, Betsy is not well. She's not with us today, but you all know they keep our office going. They're the brains of the outfit and keep things going. So thank you, Juliana. Thank you, Betsy, if you're listening online today. We truly could not do this work without them. Also, this past month, NASP, many of you know that's National Archery and Schools Shooting Program. our National Archery in Schools program. Since our last meeting, TWRA have the privilege of hosting the 2026 NAT State Championship, and that was hosted at the Tennessee Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro. There was nearly 1,900 students from 88 schools that competed across all divisions. And our staff from across the state came together to make this event a success. This is a great way to introduce youth into shooting sports. The kids love this. All of our staff will come in and participate. It's a great event. So congratulations to Riverdale High School, Rockville Middle School, and Christina Elementary for taking home the top honors in their divisions. It was inspiring to see so many young people engaged. It's going to be a way to connect them with the outdoors and life skills that they'll face. Thank you to all the staff that helped with that as well. Today's an exciting day for many reasons, but we're going to see partnership awards here in just a minute. As an agency, we rely on strong partnerships. Conservation doesn't happen without partnerships. We have several of those in the room with us today that we'll recognize. These individuals have gone above and beyond to support our mission. We're grateful and thankful for those that are here for that. Today, we're going to recognize the recipients of the Legacy Award and the Wally Childress R3 Award. These honorees represent some of the very best in promoting wildlife conservation and helping introduce Tennesseans of all ages to the outdoors. Their contributions make a real difference, and we look forward to celebrating them here in just a few minutes. Thanks to the staff and the public again. We talked about public comment and public input yesterday. I want to thank our staff first for the long hours and thoughtful preparation that went into this year's season-setting proposals that you all heard a preview of yesterday, and the vote will be today. And again, to the public, the ones that have commented, submitting comments, and then those of you that drove in today, we're thankful that you've taken the time to be able to come in to make your voice heard. This helps us with wildlife management. So as I mentioned yesterday, today marks the commission's full final vote on season setting. You all know this very well, but this is one of the most important regulatory responsibilities this commission takes on during the year. And I appreciate the careful review, the discussions, and the commitment that each of you have brought to this process. Thank you for your dedication to Tennessee's wildlife and to the Tennessees who value and depend on the decisions you make to keep these outdoor traditions alive. So thank you, commissioners. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Director. And I'd like to just remind everyone, our partnership with UT, they provide countless programs and help us with research with all sorts of, game and non-game species, and we just couldn't do it without them. So we appreciate that very much. I'd also like to recognize a special visitor we have. Representative Jeremy Faison is in the back there. Representative Faison, welcome to the commission meeting.
Good morning. My name is Jeremy Faison, and I have the incredible privilege of being the state representative for the 11th House District. That is God's country. I feel bad for the rest of y'all who don't get to live in Cott County, where God actually resides. And it is an absolute, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with such an esteemed group of men and women, maybe everybody except for Haynes. The rest of y'all are esteemed, and maybe Chip, I'm not sure. But it's an honor to be here. I've often, this is my 16th year in the General Assembly, and I have developed relationships with our state employees from one end of this state to the other. And there are occasionally times that you meet a state employee and you're really impressed with who they are and their service. I will tell you this, if you've been a state employee in Tennessee for any amount of time, you've had to deal with a lot. Every time there is an administration change, you worry about what's going to happen. Sometimes this is going to come as a shock to y'all, but sometimes we pass laws that are probably not the best. And the government, the bureaucracy, the state employees are left holding the bag or trying to implement a law that was more political in nature than it was beneficial in nature. I know that shocks y'all that we would do that, but occasionally we have done that. And there is one such individual in this room today that has come to my attention who has served this state for 55 years. You don't find a person very often who has stayed at the same job for 55 years. When I was made aware of what Dr. Ken back here has done and accomplished in his life, I started working with Director Maxedon and Tori and Blair and said, you know what, it would be my honor if I got to honor him. And we've got a resolution. Ken, would you come up here? He has no, I don't think even the commission really knew what we were about to do with this. But here's what you need to know.
You're embarrassing me.
Oh my goodness. If it's all right with y'all, I'd like to read the resolution so you hear some of the history of what Mr. Tarkington has done in his life. There's a verse in the Bible that says it's within your ability to honor those who deserve honor. You need to do it. And when somebody has given the very best of their life to this state, which I believe is the greatest state in all of America, we should pause and reflect on that and honor them. Whereas it is the privilege of the members of this General Assembly to specially recognize those estimable public servants who have dedicated themselves to improving the quality of life for their fellow citizens. Whereas one such individual is Ken Tarkington Jr., who marks 55 years of service with this year of the state of Tennessee, a milestone that serves as a testament to his competency and his devotion to serving others. And whereas a resident of Forest Hills, Mr. Tarkington came on board with the state on June 24th, 1971 as a business manager 1 with the Department of Correction. As soon as he ascended to the position of business manager 2, the associate warden 3, and associate warden 4, and whereas he transitioned to serve with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, the TWRA, as fiscal director. His immediate post included fiscal director, wildlife manager 5, fiscal director 3, which led to his current position as TWRA's chief budget officer. And whereas during his tenure with the TWRA, he has served as a commissioned officer for the organization and given his personal time on weekends and holidays to complete boating officer work and work in deer check-in stations. He also attended Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy and took part in the law enforcement and training and service training, in all addition to his fiscal role at the TWRA. And whereas Mr. Tarkington is a 1966 graduate of Battleground Academy and holds a bachelor's degree in business from MTSU, he's a licensed pilot and a veteran of the Tennessee Army National Guard and remains involved with the employer support of the Guard and Reserve as Communications Representative Public Affairs Director. And whereas he served with the National Guard and the Army Reserve for 37 years, attending Advanced NCO School and National Defense University, and serving as commissioned first lieutenant in the Finance Corps of the Tennessee Army National Guard. And whereas in addition to commendations for outstanding service, he received the prestigious 7 SEALs Award for his leadership and initiative and support of the National Guard and Reserve, as well as the 2008 President's Volunteer Service Award, which he accepted in Washington, D.C. Whereas in addition to his many vocational pursuits, Ken Tarkington is a talented mechanic and a vintage car and vintage model train enthusiast. And whereas throughout his many worthy endeavors, he has enjoyed the love and support of his wife of 54 years, Linda. Together, they have been blessed with 2 children, Kennard, Jennifer Tarkington III, and Emily Tarkington, as well as 4 grandchildren, Hunter, Hannah, Hope, and Eva. Whereas Ken Tarkington has distinguished himself as a public-spirited citizen of the highest order and as an exceptional asset to this community, and his remarkable success as a public servant and a civic leader is directly attributed to his resilience on the one-time honored values of hard work and common sense, and his uncommon ability to work well with others from all walks of life. Whereas Mr. Tarkington is wholly committed to the noble precepts of public service that have earned Tennessee recognition as the volunteer state, and he should be specifically recognized. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 114th General Assembly of the state of Tennessee and the Senate concurring that we honor and commend Ken Tarkington Jr. for 55 years of honorable and astute service to the good people of Tennessee and extend to him our best wishes for every future success.
I think after that, I need to say something, but I'm speechless. I didn't know there were that many words in the dictionary. It's really been an honor to work with the agency as long as I've been allowed to, and to deal with folks like on the commission and all the people I work with every day, along with the director's office and all the directors and the previous directors. I really do appreciate this. This is the second time you've made mention of that, Mr. Faison, and I do appreciate it. And thank you so much for coming today. Thank all of you.
Thank you for that, Representative Faison. That was very kind and well-deserved. Moving on with our agenda, is there any announcements or points of privilege from the commission? Let's move forward with our awards for today. We've got a Legacy Award presentation, an R3 Award presentation. Director Maxedon, I believe you have a Courage Award presentation, and then we have Boating and Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So I'll move to the podium and start with the Legacy Award presentation. The purpose of the Legacy Award is to recognize someone. Oh, he left it on. Thank you. You could probably still hear me though. My wife says my voice carries to the neighbor's house. The purpose of the Legacy Award is to recognize someone or an organization that exemplifies all the things that the commission has purview over. This includes hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. This recipient will join the ranks of past recipients, including John Carmichael, Anthony Landreth, Earl Bentz, Bill Dance, and David Wright. This year's recipient is Mr. Tom Beasley. Tom is an ardent supporter of wildlife-centered youth education. He's got 2 farms that he's opened up for hunting for various organizations. He's welcomed countless young people to his property to experience hunting and various forms of outdoor recreation, and has historically gone above and beyond the call of duty related to recruiting young folks into our sport. Tom is a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He served in Vietnam, the Panama Canal, and the Republic of Nicaragua as a commissioned officer in the Army. Tom endowed the Tom Beasley Scholarship at Vanderbilt Law School for United States Army veterans. He is a very astute and successful businessman, and in addition to his entrepreneurial spirit, has always been committed to the highest ideals of public service and public education for all. So Tom, congratulations for this year's Legacy Award recipient. If you'd like to come to the podium. And then I've got, yeah, go ahead. Congratulations. Thank you. So before you speak, I'd like to call Commissioner Saltzman and previous chairman of the Fish and Wildlife Commission, Jimmy Granberry, to the podium. I think Tom was a very important man to both of these gentlemen, and I know they'd both like to say something.
We'll let Jimmy go first. Well, Jimmy will go first.
Okay,
He's,
okay.
you know, he's the eloquent one.
Thanks, Chip. You know, I had the privilege of serving this commission for 6 years, and as Chairman Davenport noted, I was chairman my final year, and I could give you countless stories about what I got out of this commission and what it meant to me, but Tom Beasley meant more to me as a commissioner than any citizen of the state of Tennessee. He was would always take your call, would always do whatever he could to help you, and he wanted no recognition. We honored him a couple of times down at Buffalo Ridge. There's some funny stories, but we won't share those today. But this guy is a West Point graduate, as Chairman Davenport noted. But he didn't note that he has a Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars. And those things you can't take away, because he not only gave his time and energy to being a soldier, but he gave his life and risked his life for the betterment of his fellow soldiers and us. We were back here in the United States safe and sound, and he was out there fighting for us. And now he's back here as a citizen, and he's started a great company. He's done great things for the state of Tennessee, the United States for that matter, but yet he's still doing great things for the state of Tennessee. He calls me, he says, "Hey, I've got this farm in Smith County, and I just got all these deer, and y'all need to send some kids up here to shoot them, because they're eating all my farmers' beans. And we just got, I want the kids to have success." And then Director Maxedon and I said, "Well, you got any turkeys?" He said, "Don't shoot my turkeys." "Well, just two, and we'll make sure that you." "Okay, well that'll be all right. Y'all have a couple of turkeys." But so it's there's so many great people in the state of Tennessee, and Keith and your group here do great things. But we all talk about this agency, and we sometimes get the the hooks and bullets. I mean, that's what people think about TWRA, but they don't think about conservation. And I have sort of plagiarized the slogan, "Without hunting and fishing, there is no conservation." And this man is the epitome of what that means. We were talking driving over. I was this Uber driver this morning. I was desperately worried I was going to be late. But anyway, we're talking about now he's dedicating his life and his energy to conservation in the land trust. And he talks about how animals, whether it's a duck or a bird or a deer or a turkey, and how they migrate. Well, if you take away that piece of land in the middle, they can't get from here to there. So how do we create that environment where there's plenty of land, albeit maybe you don't necessarily have to hunt and fish on it, but you have the opportunity to grow the wildlife and grow the birds and the bees and all those things that are so important to the environment and the food chain, and what happens with the pollinators and all the things that go on. And this guy's he's just incredible with the land trust. I was telling him about something that a bunch of friends of mine up in Warren County did, where the Boy Scouts owned a big piece of property across the river, and we were worried to death that they were going to develop it into 100 lots and 100 more boats, and it's already too crowded. So we all got together and said, "The Boy Scouts, we're going to give you X amount of dollars for the Boy Scouts, but we want you to put this property in a land trust." He said, "That's perfect. That's what we need to do all over the state. That's what we need to do." Always thinking about what's best for the great outdoors. And so it's an honor and a privilege for me as a former commissioner and as a citizen of Tennessee to honor this great man for all he's done. And thank you, Tom.
You know, legacy is a pretty big word, and it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And when I was thinking about this today and about Tom, what he's done in conservation, that is a big deal. And that's what we're honoring him for. But legacy is bigger than that. Everybody in this room at some point is going to think about their legacy, what it means to you. And quite frankly, everybody in this room is a part of somebody else's legacy. It might be a teacher. It might be mom and dad. It might be somebody at work. Tom's legacy is so much bigger than any document can follow. And the reason I know that is I'm part of his legacy. In 1992, I'm driving a congressman to Burns, Tennessee, and pull up to Tom Beasley's house to talk about that congressman running for governor. From that moment on, Tom adopted me for some reason I have no idea. And he counseled me every step of the way. And I can't tell you how many late nights before cell phones, because Tom had about 17 phone numbers in my Rolodex, that I had to just start working the phones until I found Tom because the governor needed them. And after about 8 years of doing that, and Tom had counseled me on every aspect of my job and my life and even personal stuff, he even tried to set me up with his niece. That didn't work out so well. But I finally went to him and said, Tom, you know, you've been a successful businessman. You've done so many great things. I'm ready to go out and make a lot of money and I need your help. And he goes, yeah, I'm not going to help you do that. I'm shocked. You're my mentor. You're not going to go help me make a lot of money and be successful. And he goes, no, but I will help you find something that you love. And if you find that what you love, you'll have all the money you need. And that changed my life in that 30 seconds. Because I was always worried about how much money I was going to make. He made me find something I wanted to do and love. And I've had all the money I've ever needed. And he ended up being the first person to tell me to run for party chairman. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but we did all right. Tom, your legacy is lots of little things. It's lots of big things. And I'm glad just to be a small part of your legacy. Thank you.
I can only go downhill. I don't, for anything I say here, guys, I really appreciate that. That I was not expecting that. Complete surprise, and thanks for setting that up that way. I love TWRA. You guys have been coming on my farms for 30 years. We're actually, I guess it's 29 and a half now. 19 years at the Buffalo. And your predecessor, Jason, came to me and said, I told him I want to sell that farm. And he said, he got tearful. He said, I can't buy that farm. He said, he didn't even, I guess I raised the issue of, I said, I don't want to sell it to anybody but you. The deal, the way you sell it, is the state gets 4 appraisers, and then the landowner picks the appraiser that he wants, and then you sell the land at 75% of the appraised value. He said, are you willing to do that? And I said, absolutely. You guys have been with me for 19 years on this property, and you have been the joy for my entire family, because you never, in all that time, we've never had a cross word. And you're all over. I had 2,500 acres down there, and they set up every hunt. We haven't mentioned one of the great beneficiaries of these hunts. We think of the kids, the children. These were largely wounded warriors. It started off with hunts each year. It would be the juveniles, and the juveniles would kill 8 deer. Then it was the women, and the women would kill 12 to 14. And then the wounded warriors would come and they would kill 40 to 50. And they were, the work that these guys did to put up the stands for guys that are missing an arm or a leg or totally paralyzed from the waist down was astonishing. And it would bring tears to your eyes. Time after time after time, and we're still doing it. We're not doing it on that farm. We're doing it on my current farm. And now they've got a different kind of stand. They've got a mobile stand that they can pull up there with the trailer, and these guys are sitting in a chair inside a metal building, and they always get their share of deer. Nobody ever leaves there until they've got a deer. And for 30 years, we've been doing that. And I don't know how you train them, but the game wardens have a sense of, they're not just outdoors, strong country guys. They are sensitive about how they handle all this. And it's just been a real joy to me for 30 years. And I raised that issue this morning. My second favorite thing is the land trust. I put my family farm, 740 acres. It's been in the family since 1695, and it's in the land trust. And I see somewhere in the future, when the next generation of land trust owners come along, they're going to want to be set. A lot of them are going to want to sell. I want to see the preferred buyer be TWRA. And I want to see the spread be managed by corporate contributions or public efforts to raise the money to get those, because the wildlife corridors are quickly going away in the state. We've got, not only is Nashville exploding, Knoxville is exploding, Chattanooga is exploding, the whole state is exploding. And what that means is less habitat for our wildlife. And you've got to do something about that. And I would love to see a merger of some sort with a strategy about those properties that are already several thousand acres that are in the land trust. When they change hands, I would like to see the TWRA be the primary beneficiary of that. And that means going out and raising some more money, but that keeps the wildlife corridors more intact. You can't do it all, but that's that. I didn't come here yesterday to make that argument, but I think the relationship between the two are just extraordinary. So I could go on all day about this. I love the TWRA. I love everything you guys do. You've been totally a perfect partner for me, for my family. I've got 10 grandchildren, and my farm up there. I've got to tell, this morning you spoke about quail. I've got a dilemma on that farm. I have 4 substantial coveys of quail. The dilemma is, do you know what brought them in? Privet, an invasive species that drives the grasslands people crazy, but the quail love it. They love it, and that's going to be a big fight in the coming future between 2 agencies, I can see. But I had not seen a quail in 25 years, and I've got 20 to 30 in each covey. So it's good. I could go on all afternoon about this. Thank you guys for this. Tricia, have I forgotten anything? Okay. I stayed up here longer than I meant to, but I didn't expect you guys. So thank you guys very much. I love you.
We'll take pictures at the break.
Okay.
So hang around. Our next award is the Wally Childress R3 Award. Wally Childress is a past Fish and Wildlife Commissioner that exemplified what it means to support R3. R3 is recruitment, retention, and reactivation. And R3 is critical to the success of the agency in the form of participation in hunting and fishing. The award was created to recognize a commission member, former commission member, or outstanding leader in the R3 space who has actively committed themselves to furthering the cause of R3. This year's recipient is the Smoky Mountain chapter of Quail Forever. The Smoky Mountain chapter exemplifies R3 efforts in action. Their outreach is intentional, consistent, and deeply impactful across Tennessee's upland community. In addition to their investments with youth, they also make significant investments in conservation with TWRA, funding internships and part-time positions at WMAs for quail habitat research and development. The chapter truly reflects the heart of the Wally Childress R3 Award through their mentorship and commitment to ensuring the tradition of hunting for generations to come. So I would ask a representative of the Smoky Mountain chapter of Quail Forever to come forward, please.
Actually, I told them all to come up because everybody needs to see that it's not one person. It's not even all of them here. I mean, the chapter's bigger than this and gets tons of support from the community and everything that makes it happen. This chapter's near and dear to my heart. Love all these guys tremendously for who they are and what they do. They live R3 on every level. Like Commissioner Davenport mentioned, the recruitment. You can see the pictures and all those smiles. I don't know who that guy is, but we should have photoshopped him out of there. Sorry, Brandon. But getting the youth involved, that's great. It's wonderful. They do an excellent job at that. For recruitment, the retention, you're going to keep people involved and those youngsters involved by having the product, maintaining the resource, and the funding that they put into securing the resource for future generation is remarkable. Between the interns, the staff, the research, the equipment, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that this group has funded for conservation of the little bird that we all love to chase, even if it does come with nuisance species. But we love it. And to see the kids interact with the dogs, see families get reactivated because the youngsters are involved, it just hits R3 on all levels, and these guys are great, and I love them for it, and I'm proud of them. Congratulations, guys. And they're never at a loss for words, I'll just tell you that.
Thank you so much. First of all, we owe a lot of people a lot of thanks for even recognizing us for this. And the first people we owe a lot of thanks to are the membership of Chapter 3139, Quail Forever, Smoky Mountain Chapter. This incredible commitment and dedication to these guys. This didn't happen in 2025 or 2026. This started way back there in the 1900s, believe it or not, 1999 or 1995, yeah. And so the commitment of these guys has been unwavering, whereas nobody knew what we were doing, nobody cared, and I understand that.
But thanks to these guys and a few more that are not here today for just absolutely giving up their free time, their effort, their the caring they have, not only to try to pass this legacy along of upland bird hunting and quail conservation in the state of Tennessee is just amazing. And it pleasures me each month to come to a meeting and be around these guys, and then to do projects with them, like our youth projects and things like that. But also, the one thing that's brought this thing to the forefront is our incredible relationship with TWRA. And it starts with Director Maxedon, who comes to our banquets. He's there faithfully. He always speaks. He doesn't want to speak about anything but what Quail Forever, Chapter 31, 39 is doing for quail in East Tennessee. And then we've got Brandon Ware, who's always been a friend of ours, for the deputy commissioner. Wally Akins is here today, who started kind of this thing off in the beginning, is beginning our real partnership that was not just talk, but was real. And we work together now with so many members of the TWRA. And then, of course, we have Rhonda Moody. We have Ford Little. We got Steve Jones. We've got all these commissioners who have been on our side and and they see what we do, and they see the same things I'm telling you about, and they see the commitment, and they say, you know what, these guys deserve something if we can help them some way. So thank you so much for that. We greatly appreciate it, and for all that the commission's done as well. Thank you for this award.
I believe Director Maxedon would like to present the Courage Award.
Well, I told you all it was going to be an exciting day to be able to be a part of this. I want to thank the award recipients as well. Thank you for your partnership. Both groups, Mr. Tom, thank you. Smoky Mountain Chapter, thank you. Conservation doesn't happen without partnerships, and we're grateful for that. If you all don't mind, hang over. We've got 2 more awards to give away. Once we do that, Chairman's going to put us on a break, and we would like to get you all to come out in the hallway and take a photograph with the commission and you all. So if you don't mind, just hang out in the hallway as soon as we go to break for that. Thank you so much. Another exciting award, commissioners and guests, it's my honor today to present the Director's Achievement Award. This award is an award recognizing a young person who has overcome significant challenges and shown extraordinary dedication to hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation. This is a new award. It's only been given out once to Virginia Barron out in West Tennessee. You may remember that from the Dyersburg meeting. Young lady that's overcome a lot and a very accomplished turkey hunter, I might say. In fact, she harvested a turkey 2 weekends ago. This year's recipient is going to be Mr. Clayton Penner. He represents the very best of Tennessee's outdoor spirit. Clayton has been in the woods since before most kids could even spell the word deer. He started hunting at just 2 years old. And since then, he has harvested 61 deer. I'm going to say that again. Clayton has harvested 61 deer, more than any other 13-year-old that we know or have record of in the state. But what stands out about Clayton isn't just the number. He'll tell you himself that he never set out to reach 61. He just loves being outdoors. His granddad, known as Gopher, unfortunately, Mr. Gopher couldn't be with us today. He's sharing double duty with another grandchild in Ball, keeps a journal of every hunt that Clayton goes on. According to that journal, Clayton has hunted 332 times, and he has seen 1,282 deer. And he's not just there for the easy ones. Clayton's been working on his patience. Glad to hear that, Clayton, and Mom is too, on small deer while waiting for the right buck to come along. Hunting is a family tradition for Clayton. They're in the woods together every Thanksgiving and every Christmas Eve. And there's homework to finish, as Clayton has to get that done. Mom's shaking her head, yes. He brings it right into the deer blind. Gopher snaps pictures to prove to Mom that he's actually getting that homework done. And I hear there's a few milkshakes involved to maybe have a little bit of motivation for him to be able to get that done in the deer blind. Clayton isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. He guts his own deer. Clayton, my son's gut and mind for me now whenever I shoot those. So thank you for doing that. He loves duck hunting. And like my son, his favorite snack is Little Debbie Christmas tree cakes. We have to stock up on those during duck season. But what makes Clayton truly deserving of this award isn't just his passion for the outdoors. It's the incredible challenge that Clayton has overcome. In 2018, Clayton was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. His world changed overnight. Suddenly he couldn't be outside. Clayton couldn't get dirty. He couldn't hunt like he used to. His treatments at St. Jude were tough, but his biggest question at every checkup was always the same: when can I go hunting? With perseverance, determination, and support of his family, Clayton found his way back into the woods. The first time he came home during treatment, he changed into his camo t-shirt, which as you see, he's wearing camo today. He climbed into the Ranger and headed straight for the deer stand. That day, with his mom by his side, he harvested his very first buck. He was 8 years old, and that moment his family will never forget. Today, Clayton is 5 years in remission, and his doctors and nurses at St. Jude still love hearing his hunting stories as he comes in. He tells other young hunters who face challenges to keep fighting, stay determined, and always find a way. Clayton hopes to hunt elk in Tennessee someday, and he's setting his sights on getting one of those draws in that youth quota hunt. Clayton, your grit, your heart, and your love for the outdoors inspires all of us. You remind us of why we do this work, so that young people like you can grow, you can heal, and you can thrive in the outdoors. So on behalf of the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission and the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, it's my privilege to present you with the Director's Award. Clayton, if you and your family will all come forward, I'd love to be able to present you with that. Let me introduce his family. This is Mr. David, Miss Natalie, and Will. Chairman Granberry, I'm going to surprise you. Would you come forward for just a second? So Chairman Granberry serves on the board of the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Foundation now, and he is going to present something to you, Mr. Clayton. This is a Rossi Turkey Tuffy 410, and we heard that you're wanting to get really engaged in turkey hunting. So the foundation outfitted this with a red dot sight, and they wanted to get you outfitted for turkey season. Now, also, you just saw the Wally Childress R3 Award. I reached out to Commissioner Childress, and he has got a really nice turkey farm about an hour and a half north of you and a really good duck hole. And he said, you give that young man the choice. We will give him a choice of a turkey hunt or a duck hunt in West Tennessee. So we'll get you fixed up with that. You can think about that and give it a little time. And he'd like to have you on his podcast. So congratulations, Clayton. We're proud of you and thank you very much. Clayton, I'm going to hold that since we're at the school. We are going to have to give Clayton a law enforcement escort since we're on a college campus to get that out of the vehicle, but we will take care of that. Congratulations and thank you all. Would you like to say a few words, anybody?
Well, usually not this emotional. I think what gets me so emotional in this particular one is things like what you guys do has put my son back in the outdoors. He's been raised, like he was saying before, with my dad and David's dad, to love the outdoors at a young age, and both of us. But when we were, or when he was taking we're from Haywood County, small rural area, where he can just run freely in the woods and all of that, and was moved out just immediately to St. Jude in Memphis, which is totally different. His world was rocked. And our world was rocked. And for him to be able to come home and enjoy the outdoors, we just can't promote that enough, that it is so healing. Just being outside, being in God's creation is just so healing. And I say all the time, that is half the battle, was quality of life for Clayton, and the outdoors is what gave him that quality of life back. So we appreciate the TWRA. We appreciate all of you and everything you guys do, but especially getting kids outdoors. Getting kids outdoors promotes lots of positive things, and staying out of trouble is what I say. If you're in your deer stand, you can't find much trouble. But anyway, we appreciate all you guys, and thank you for the award, and I'm sure thank you for the gun. We have lots of fun to come.
Congratulations, Clayton. And I got to tell you, I'm a little bit jealous that you've killed so many deer so early in life. So if you all would hang around till after the break, we'll take some pictures with your family. So I'll now call Lieutenant Colonel Shelley Hammonds to the podium for the Boating and Law Enforcement Officer of the Year.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present this award here today. Here we go. The 2025 Wildlife Officer of the Year is Chase Rich. Chase is in Region 4, District 42. He exemplifies professionalism, dedication, and service in his role serving Cott County and the surrounding region. Through his tireless efforts in public outreach, law enforcement, and emergency response, Officer Rich has made a lasting and meaningful impact on both natural resources and the community he serves. Chase was hired as a wildlife officer in 2010, and he knew full well what this life looked like long before he ever put on the badge. His dad, retired Jefferson County Wildlife Officer Wayne Rich, is here with us today. Wayne. And his wife, Tina. Wayne's service to TWRA and the citizens of Tennessee spanned from 1982 to 2019, a career built on dedication, grit, and a standard of service that helped shape this agency. Wayne, we're honored to have you here today. Thank you and Tina for being here. And although she had to work today and couldn't be here, I do want to recognize Abby, Chase's wife. In this line of work, the sacrifice doesn't fall on the officer alone. It takes a strong partner at home, someone who carries the long hours, the missed time, and the quiet worry that comes with it. Abby, thank you for standing beside him and supporting him in the way you do. This past October, Chase represented Tennessee and TWRA at the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies in Biloxi, Mississippi. He was also chosen as a Tennessee National Wild Turkey Federation Officer of the Year and represented the state at the NWTF National Convention held in Nashville in February. Officer Rich is deeply committed to education and community engagement. He actively supports hunter education programs, where 82 students successfully completed certification under his instruction this year. In addition, he participated in 59 public outreach events, many focused on youth involvement. These efforts included hosting youth bear hunts, quail hunts, organizing fishing events, and contributing to 5 Shop with a Cop programs, often personally sponsoring children in need. He also took part in Read Across America, demonstrating his dedication to connecting with younger generations, although his outreach efforts reached more than 4,500 individuals. Altogether, his outreach efforts reached more than 4,500 individuals. In times of crisis, Officer Rich consistently rises to the occasion. During the devastated flooding caused by Hurricane Helene in East Tennessee, he was among the first officers to respond. Anticipating the dangers of rising water, he quickly mobilized and played a key role in search and rescue operations. Over the course of 1 week, he logged more than 130 hours across 4 counties, assisting in evacuations and life-saving efforts using boats, ATVs, and on foot. His commitment and responsiveness were critical in protecting lives during this emergency. He was also recognized this past year with a Valor Award for risking his own life while saving the lives during the Hurricane Helene flooding. Officer Rich also demonstrates exceptional skills and initiative in law enforcement. He led a complex investigation into illegal bear hunting involving multiple suspects. His thorough work resulted in significant charges, including felonies, and ultimately led to convictions, substantial fines, and the revocation of hunting privileges. Throughout the year, he issued 63 big game citations and remained highly active in enforcing boating safety laws and protecting fisheries resources. As a leader, Officer Rich is dependable, composed, and proactive. He is taking charge in critical incidents, including serious boating accidents, where his ability to manage chaotic scenes and coordinate emergency response efforts ensured effective outcomes. He is also committed to professional growth, earning advanced certifications and serving as an instructor in firearms, man tracking, and boat operations. His willingness to mentor others and share his expertise strengthens the entire agency. Congratulations, Chase Rich, Tennessee's 2025 Officer of the Year. We also have his leadership in the back. We have Sergeant Rusty Thompson, Lieutenant Brian Kegley, Captain Nathan Ripley, and Major Jeff Prater in the back. Thank you.
I'd like to thank my wife and kids, because they're the ones that make the ultimate sacrifice with my long hours, with everything that I'm going out of town doing, things like that. Also my mom and dad and the guys that I work with up in 42. So thank you all.
Congratulations, Officer Rich. Let's take about a 15-minute break and reconvene at 10:45. Yes, we'll do pictures out in the lobby there. Okay, it's time to get to the season setting portion of our agenda. I want to go over a few procedural matters. Commissioners, first, we will move the agency's proclamation before the commission. This will be done via motion, a second, and then the agency will quickly highlight amendatory items from committee yesterday, if any. Once we get the proclamation before us, via motion, a second, we'll discuss the proclamation and take up amendments as they were referred to the Wildlife Committee. The motion will be to accept, reject, or modify the amendment from the Wildlife Committee. If there are no amendments, the proclamation, or no objection, I will call a voice vote to approve. If there are amendments, I will take a roll call vote to modify the proclamation. Should the modification pass, I'll take a voice vote to approve the proclamation. If the voice vote is not unanimous, then I reserve the right to roll call vote for approval processes. Please speak clearly in your microphone, and remember the agency staff must capture our comments so they can effectuate the proclamations that further our intent. Before I get started, I want to recognize Wildlife Committee Chair Commissioner John McCarty for any comments he may have. Thank you, Commissioner McCarty. I'd like to call Chief Joe Benedict, Wildlife and Forestry, to the podium for Proclamation 2606, Manner and Means of Hunting, Taking, and Trapping.
Thank you, Commissioners, and good morning. I'm glad to be in a cool room with you today instead of the temperature we had yesterday. As the chairman said, we're here to propose final recommendations from the agency, and we made some changes to the slide yesterday with what we feel are the intent of the amendments from the Wildlife Committee, and we'll go through them. This will be a much more abbreviated presentation than yesterday. So again, just a reminder of the proclamations we're going to go through. What we did, Mr. Chairman, is we moved the big game hunting seasons to the bottom. So we'll take that up last. So we'll start with manner and means and go through the order you see there on the screen and finalize the presentation with the big game seasons. So the manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping, Proclamation 2606. As proposed by the agency yesterday and approved by the Wildlife Committee, there were 3 changes. The modernization of the trapping verbiage, and then 2 changes to align with recent rule changes to allow hunting with deer over bait with a license, and then to clarify drones and dogs can be used to recover deer. So with that, Mr. Chairman, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 26-06.
Thank you, Chief Benedict. Do I have a motion to approve Proclamation 26? Excuse me. I'm going to yield the floor to Council Grimes related to straight wall cartridges as it may modify Proclamation 2606.
Commissioners, you in the big game proclamation, you all are going to take up whether or not to allow a straight wall cartridge to be used in some form. What I suggested to the chairman is you all give me the authority to put a definitional element in this manner means proc should you pass that later. That way we can kind of wrap this all up and get it in one place.
All right, so what we need to do is get a motion for Proclamation 2606 as it stands, and then we will amend that to include Council Grimes' comments on straight wall. So can I get a motion to approve Proclamation 2606? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have any discussion from members of the public? Okay, Commissioners, you've heard the proclamation as recommended by the agency. Are there any amendments? Can I get an amendment? And I think what the amendment needs to state is to allow Council Grimes to amend Proclamation 2606 in accordance with the provisions of Proclamation 26-11 if straight wall cartridges are approved by the Commission. Is that correct, Council Grimes? All right. Can I get Can I get a motion to approve this amendment?
I'll move it.
A second? All right, I have a motion and a second on an amendment to allow Council Grimes to modify Proclamation 2606 if the Commission were to pass straight wall cartridges as part of Proclamation 26-11. Do I have any comments from the public? Any comments from commissioners or discussion about the amendment? All right, so first I'm gonna call a voice vote on the amendment, and then I'll call a vote on the proclamation. For the amendment, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. Now let's vote on Proclamation 2606. Voice vote. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Proclamation passes. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next proclamation is the hunting seasons on national wildlife refuges or other federal lands. And as we shared yesterday, this is a simple request from the Big South Fork to change their structure of their hog allowance take. So with that, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 2607.
All right, we have a proclamation from the agency 26-07. Can I get a motion from the commission to approve? I have a motion. May I have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. At this time, is there any comments from the public? All right, commissioners, you've heard the proclamation as amended, or excuse me, as recommended by the agency. Is there any questions or discussions? Seeing no questions or discussions, I will call a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, Joe, I guess we're moving on to 26-08.
Yes, sir. So Commissioners, this proclamation relates to the migratory game bird hunting seasons. I just want to make a note, we shared, I guess I'll share this slide here. These are the duck season dates as proposed. This is one of the most commonly requested pieces out of the migratory game bird proc. Migratory game bird proc does include doves, geese, and all the other migratory birds we hunt. Again, this is the duck season because that's kind of the most popular request that we get for those dates. Again, this is not a change from last year. We just have updated the season dates to reflect the calendar for 26-27. And with that, we recommend passage of Proclamation 2608.
All right, thank you, Joe. So commissioners, you have a proclamation 26-08 to adopt migratory game birds seasons and bag limits as recommended by the agency. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. At this time, I want to allow any comments from the public. All right, seeing none. Commissioners, you've heard the proclamation as recommended. Is there any questions or discussions about Proclamation 26-08? So we're fixing to vote on duck hunt without anybody asking a question?
Take the win.
That's right. All right, I'm going to call a vote for Proclamation 26-08. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Proclamation passes. Joe?
Yes, sir. The next proclamation we have is the Furbearer hunting and trapping season proclamation 26-09. And there were 3 changes to this. We requested expanding the striped skunk season trapping to year-round and removing the big game license requirement for private lands only bobcat season. The Wildlife Committee yesterday on the very bottom there, you see the bold bullets. The Wildlife Committee amended this to allow for year-round raccoon season on private land. We just realized last night when we were making the slide that the raccoon and possum seasons are tied together. And so just want to add that in there just for consistency with the remaining raccoon season. And a bag limit of 4 per person. So we recommend passage of Proclamation 2609 as amended by the Wildlife Committee.
All right, commissioners, you've got Proclamation 26-09 before you. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. At this time, I'd like to allow the public to comment on Proclamation 26-09. So just for clarity, commissioners, we are approving this proclamation as amended by the Wildlife Committee, which I believe opened up raccoon hunting year-round on private lands. Do I have any discussion or comments from the commission? Seeing none, I'll call a voice vote. All those in favor of Proclamation 26-09, say aye. Opposed? Proclamation passes. So Joe, we're moving on to 26-10.
Yes, sir. So this is Wildlife Management Area, Refuge and Public Hunting Area Proclamation 26-10. There were two statewide changes, as you recall from Mark's presentation yesterday, allowing dove hunters to not wear orange or pink, and then to clarify the idea or the allowance for baiting and lures during legal trap sets. There are also miscellaneous individual WMA changes in this packet as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we recommend passage of Proclamation 26-11.
All right, commissioners, you've got proclamation.
I'm sorry, this slide is wrong.
That's what I was about to.
We recommend passage of Proclamation 26-10.
Okay, proclamation 26-10 before you. Can I get a motion to approve? I have a motion. May I have a second? Second. All right, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any comments from the public on proclamation 26-10? All right, seeing none, do I have any comments or questions from the commission related to proclamation 26-10? Seeing none, I'll call a voice vote. All those in favor of proclamation 26-10 say aye. Opposed? Proclamation passes.
So, Commission, now we have the big game proclamation, Proclamation 26-11. Again, we're presenting this as amended by the Wildlife Committee. Okay, sorry, I thought you were conferring with the counselor there. So Commission, the Wildlife Committee, the agency had no recommendation for changes to the big game hunting seasons. The Wildlife Committee recommended a straight walled rifle season on private lands only, beginning the second Saturday before Thanksgiving, which is the second weekend of the current muzzleloader season. It'd be a 7-day season. This would be for straight walled cartridges, 35 caliber or larger. We did have a question for the commission when we presented this last night. The indication was clear that you all wanted single shot rifles for this. There's a couple different things here we wanted to share. So the first question is, would you request break action rifles with exposed hammer? There is an option for repeating rifles. So think about a bolt action rifle that would be a straight walled cartridge. You can purchase a magazine or it's like a plug where the magazine doesn't have the ability to put any more shells in there. And so that could be inserted into the rifle. It's a bolt action and effectively making it a single shot. So we wanted to ask for clarity from the commission as to which of those you wanted. And then finally, just the dates for the season this year would be November 14th through November 20th.
Joe, I would like for you to go through your full presentation, and then we will move to approve the agency's recommendation and then take up the amendments from there. So go ahead and go through the full big game presentation.
Okay.
And we can deal with questions to this during the amendment process.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioners, the Wildlife Committee also recommended a change to the turkey start date. The recommendation is to move the season to the 2026 alternative, which would be the Saturday before April 10th. So the idea for that alternative, 2026 alternative, is to never have opening day on the 10th or later in April. So that season, you can see the season dates there. In 2027, the season would open on April 3rd and end on May 16th. The youth season would be the 27th and 28th of March. And commissioners, for the full commission, I wanted to just include this is the wrong presentation. Mark, do you have your thumb drive? My apologies. Let me check one more slide. Yeah, we had some Or maybe just unhide those slides, Mark. We had the tables from last year, I'm sorry, from yesterday in the presentation. I don't know if they were hidden. Would you run back there and see if they're hidden, Mark? Commissioners, what we had for you was the table that Mark shared yesterday with the different alternatives, and then we created a slide with the Wildlife Committee's recommendation that would also show a column of the youth days. My apologies for this. I'm not sure what happened to the file. Perfect, there it is. So I need to go back. There's another slide in there, Mark. Okay, let me just back up one more slide and kind of restart this section. Excuse me. So the Wildlife Committee amended the big game proclamation to start the turkey season the Saturday before April 10th. Again, that would keep the opening day outside of the double-digit numbers in April. This is a slide that Mark showed yesterday. The 2026 alternatives there is the second column. The far left is the traditional opener, which is a Saturday closest to April 1st. The current start date is on the far right-hand side, so the second Saturday in April. Just a reminder, one of the reasons the agency didn't recommend a change this year is because the current start date of April 10th is essentially a week delay from the traditional start date, which is April 3rd. So going back a few years, we did the 2-week delay. The idea was, does this have an impact on reproduction and harvest in the population in subsequent years? The study showed that it didn't here in Tennessee, even though there's still some questions about that whole delay, in the wild turkey research community. But again, the reason the agency didn't have a proposal is it's really, without a change, this would be a 1-week delay from the traditional season. So there's that piece there. And then the following year, any of the alternatives except for the traditional would have the same start date. So just want to remind you kind of where the agency was and why we didn't bring a recommendation. Effectively, the current start date is a 1-week delay from the traditional next year. So again, here's the seasons. We went through that a minute ago. The current recommendation from the Wildlife Committee is April 3rd through May 16th. March 27th and 28th would be the youth. And there's one more slide, Mark, that you showed a minute ago. I promise you this is not a intentional delay tactic here. I apologize. This is I believe you had that slide up previously. Yes, okay. So commissioners, we've created this slide. Again, we wanted to add the youth days into the table for clarity. I know there's some discussion back and forth about this yesterday. So the current start date is on the right-hand side. So 2027, the current start date would be April 10th. And the youth would be April 3rd. With the 2026. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I was just kind of getting to that. So, so if the current recommendation from the Wildlife Committee is a 2026 alternative in the gray column there, and the verbiage on that is a Saturday before April 10th. So you see there, April 3rd, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 9th. That would be the opening of the statewide season. The column on the left is the weekend prior to the statewide opener. So that would be the youth season. So again, with the 2026 alternative throughout history, if this is passed moving forward, the youth season would start on the previous traditional opener. And again, that would be 1 week later than it was before. So it'd be 1 week delay. Okay, the next piece here is Bear Dog Training Days. We spoke to the Bear Hunters Association, Mr. Travis and Jacob, I believe, or Jason that was here yesterday. We did find an additional 7 training days in the spring. Again, this would be private lands only, which is not their preferred option, but they were grateful to have this opportunity. So the bottom line is kind of what the new regulation would be. It would be bear hunt zones 1, 2, and 3. It would be a 21-day consecutive season beginning the Monday after turkey season ends. And so again, that would be an addition of 7 training days. And they weren't able to stay through the meeting today, but they're very grateful for you guys hearing them out on that. So that, Mr. Chairman, the agency recommends passage of Proclamation 26-11, big game hunting seasons.
Thank you, Joe. I think the slide that you had there about the bear hunting, is that agreeable to the bear hunters that came to the committee meeting yesterday?
Yes, sir. We spoke to them afterwards, and we had Dan Gibbs, our bear coordinator here, Janelle as well, and
Okay.
Mark, and they're pleased with this 7 days addition. Even though they wanted public land, this was a good addition for them.
Okay, commissioners, what we need to do is make a motion to approve Proclamation 26-11, and then we can take up each of these items and the amendments from the Wildlife Committee subsequently and separately. So can I get a motion to approve Proclamation 26-11?
Move to approve Proclamation 2611.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Do I have any comments from the public related to Proclamation 26-11? Okay, commissioners, we'll now go into discussion about amendments from the Wildlife Committee. Considering there seems to be pretty universal feelings towards the bear season, can I entertain a motion, an amendment to modify Proclamation 26-11 to accept the agency's recommendations related to spring training edition?
I move to amend the proclamation by adding the 7 days recommended by the agency.
May I have a second? All right, so commissioners, what you have before you is an amendment to consider related to spring training edition. Is there any comment from the full commission? Seeing none, I'm going to take a voice vote. All those in favor of an amendment to Proclamation 26-11 to allow spring training edition in accordance with the agency's recommendations, please vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. All right, now we have 2 amendments from the Wildlife Committee before us today. The first amendment is to allow straight wall cartridges the second week of the muzzleloader season in accordance with the agency's recommendations here. So what we need to do is we need an amendment from the commission to accept straight wall cartridges as proposed by the agency to Proclamation 26-11 before we can have discussion. So can I get a motion to amend Proclamation 26-11? Second? All right, I have a motion and a second to allow straight wall cartridges by amendment to Proclamation 26-11. Commissioners, Joe has put before you the question of, he's put several things there, but I think the main question is break action, exposed hammer, single shot, or repeating rifle with a single shot adapter. So I'll open the floor up to discussion. Commissioner McCarty.
I recommend that we move towards a rule that would allow us to have a easily enforceable rule that would truly only allow single shots And I think that some of the mechanisms with magazine plugs could be very confusing. And so I would like to hear other people's thoughts. But my thought is that if we went with a break action requirement, that solves all the issues. I do know that the exposed hammer is not universal on single shots. I think the Marlin Guide Gun 4570 does have an exposed hammer on it, but is a lever action. I think the intent, the way I understand it, is that the straight wall season would only be for a single shot rifle, the way I've heard it. And I do know that some of the straight wall cartridges even work in AR rifles well. And so I think my preference would be to avoid that, but I would like to hear y'all's discussion.
Commissioner Butt.
I would agree. And with the confusion or the lack of knowledge of shotguns and plugs and dove hunting and different things like that, why would we create a repeating rifle shot adapter to cause issues with some people that won't be aware? So I think I would agree with the break action single shot. So as well as what Commissioner Granberry said. So that's my input.
Commissioner Jones.
Well, I'm going to, along the same lines that you all are discussing, I think the questions that the agency has brought up as they relate to 35 caliber or larger straight wall cartridges will make a complex rule. And I was on the fence about straight wall cartridges anyway. So, I mean, I would take it a step further and just leave traditional muzzleloaders.
Any other conversation about the amendment before us to allow straight wall rifle season? If there's no further discussion, I think we need to ask Commissioner McCarty to restate his amendment in accordance with the provisions of a single shot rifle.
To confirm what my thought was and restate my amendment is to have the straight wall rule require only single shot break action straight wall cartridges.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarty. Is there any other discussion regarding straight wall season amendment before you? Joe?
Mr. Chairman, like you did previously with allowing our general counsel some leeway, there may be additional kinds of rifles that are single shot mechanically, but that don't have a break action capacity. So we didn't have time to look at that. We weren't thinking about that last night about 9:30 when we did this. So I think I understand. I don't want to speak for Commissioner McCarty, but if the intent of the commission is to have a single shot rifle that doesn't have a different kind of mechanism to confuse folks, break action will cover that in most cases, but there may be a gun that's single shot that's not a break action. And so just want to kind of provide that thought to you guys as you deliberate.
Joe, I can think of Fallen Block as one of them. Do we need to approve an amendment that says single shot only and then let the agency think through what those types are? Or do we even at this point need to make a designation as to what those types are? If we just say single shot, does that not cover it?
I think your intent, as well as the agencies, would be to provide clear regulations for the public. And so if the intent of the commission is to have a single shot mechanism, then we can certainly work to make sure that's correct in the red line of the final proclamation and work with the director's office and the general counsel and you, Mr. Chairman, to make sure that any small tweaks or additions to the word single shot would be approved or appropriate by you.
To clarify, the amendment is to allow only single shot rifles.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarty. Any more discussion from the commission related to straight wall cartridges? Giuliani, will you call a roll call vote on the amendment to allow straight wall cartridges to Proclamation 26-11?
Brad Box,
Aye.
Stan Butt.
Yes.
Greg Davenport. Chris Devaney.
Aye.
Steve Johnson. Steve Jones. Ford Little. John McCarty.
No.
Rosemary McElhaney. Rhonda Moody. Chip Saltzman. Haynes Torbett. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Giuliani. Let's move on to our next amendment proposed by the Wildlife Committee, which was to proceed with the 2026 alternative. There we go. So the first step we need to do is get an amendment on the floor by the commission that in accordance with the Wildlife Committee's recommendations. Do I have a motion to amend Proclamation 26-11 to accept the 2026 alternative for turkey season?
I move that the commission vote in favor of the 2026 alternative for the turkey season.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Little. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion by the commission related to the amendment before you? Commissioner Jones.
When I look at this chart, and I've had to stare at it a long time, and I've talked to a lot of people about turkeys. If we reject the 2026 alternative, I would turn around and make a motion to adopt the 2024. And it's mainly because of those 2 days where you have a start date on the 3rd, and I would rather see them be a date on the 10th.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Box?
I agree with Jones, and mainly it's because of the Easter issue next year. I feel like we don't need to move youth turkey hunt to Easter weekend. It seems wrong.
Thank you, Commissioner Box. Any other commissioners with Commissioner Little?
So we're always going to deal with Sundays, and hunters will have a choice on Easter weekend. I certainly respect Commissioner Box, but everybody has a choice whether or not they're going to go to church on Sunday and observe Easter or they don't. My house, we don't hunt on Sundays, and that's just the way it is. Other people choose to hunt before church and then get changed and go to church. Other people choose to hunt on Sundays. I respect everybody's right to do whatever they choose to do. I think from my standpoint, we're always going to have to deal with holidays, and that's just the nature of the way it works, whether you change the season one week or the other. So I guess from my perspective, even though I absolutely respect Commissioner Box's concern, that doesn't move the needle for me, or I think a number of other folks I know, because they're going to go to church on Sunday, whether it's Easter or it's not Easter. I think in looking at this, the 2026 alternative that we talked about at Buffalo Ridge that was at that point brought to our attention by the staff was a very reasonable and well thought out compromise. And as I shared yesterday, The benefit for the juvenile hunting is that except for 1 year, and I think is in 2032, so it's what, 6 or 7 years from now, every juvenile hunt is going to be on the traditional opening turkey season day. The other looks like 9 or 10 years. And so we are recognizing the priority of having the youth hunt on the traditional opening day. And I think that's a good thing. I think if you ask a lot of hunters who don't have kids, they'd like to have that for their opening day. I don't think that's the best thing now, because I think we recognize the benefit of having our youth go turkey hunting. So I think the 2026 alternative is fair and reasonable. It recognizes the comments that we've asked the public to make. And it is something that I think at the end of the day is one that makes sense for Tennessee.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. Any other commissioners' comments? Commissioner McCarty?
Chairman, I would like to state for the public that there has been a lot of discussion. I think it's been very helpful for the balance between the success of the juvenile season and the comments from the public. I do personally think both alternatives, the 2026 and the 2024 proposals, would meet both of those, and I support either of those. But I wanted everybody to know that I think from everybody I've heard from on the commission that it is a balance of both of those aspects, and I respect that.
Any other commissioners' comments? Commissioner McElhaney.
I also support the 2026 alternative. I think it's a great compromise to continue to support our youth, but also we can make decisions that reflect and respect those who fund our agency, the licensed buyers. I'm a product of youth hunting. It's why I have a seat at this table, and I support a lot of R3 and youth programs. But we are funded by the license holders. The license holders are the ones who take the youth, and they're sustaining everything that we do. And we're not going to go back to the original start date, but I think the 2026 alternative is a good compromise for that.
Thank you, Commissioner McElhaney. Any other commissioners? I support the youth of this state, and I would like to hear the agency discuss the increase in the juvenile harvest from the season that we set the season back to now, and what may be causing that increased harvest with these juveniles. Obviously, there's something going on in the data there that says that our kids are a lot more successful. I've got my ideas about how turkeys behave because I've been turkey hunting for 30 years, but Joe, could you kind of describe like just what happens in the spring with turkeys and why the kids may be more successful, weather aside? Let's just say average weather considered every year.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't heard from our wild turkey coordinator, Roger Shields, this meeting, and he might be the best one to provide a succinct, thorough answer to that. If you're at your pleasure, I'd like to ask Roger to come up.
Certainly. Thank you, Roger.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Roger Shields, Wild Turkey Program Coordinator. Yeah, we definitely are seeing better success as we've shifted the season later. As to what's driving that, there could be lots of different things, but I think largely it's, as you were saying, related to the breeding chronology. So early on in the season, you've got gobblers that are gobbling and they're receptive, but the hens are not so much. But as you get closer to the peak of when they're starting to lay eggs, starting to initiate their nests, and then transitioning into beginning to incubate, I think those gobblers then are more receptive to the hunter's call and mimicking those hens. And so they may not be gobbling as much, but they're more receptive to the hunter's call. And so they're coming in. Therefore, more hunters are being successful. There could as well, there may be some improvement in population numbers as well, but I think it's mostly behavior.
Thank you, Roger. I agree with what you're saying, and I took both my girls for years, and we had an opener in, I think it was March 23rd, and it was a late spring, and the gobblers weren't even out of their winter range yet. They were all holed up somewhere. And then 1 week later, it was on. So thank you. I would like to see us, can you put the slide back up with 2024, 26 and current season? So one of the things I'd like for the commission to just think about is if we were to go with the 2024 proposal for 2027, we would accomplish Commissioner Box's ideas on Easter. We would continue with our third year of data with the second weekend in April. And then after that, provided at the commission's direction, 2026 and 2024 are exactly the same for 4 more years until 2032 when it's a week later. So really the only difference between 2024 and 2026 is that we do give the kids a better chance, in my opinion, in 2027 and 2032 of killing one of those gobblers that Roger's just talking about that may be more susceptible to the call. And I'm certain that's why we're seeing those increases in harvest. So I would like to make an amendment to the current amendment before us to accept the 2026 alternative, to modify that to accept the 2024 alternative. So with that amendment made, can I get a second? All right, I have a second. Any discussion about changing from a 2026 to a 2024 alternative from the commissioners?
So we had an amendment pending,
Okay.
which was the 26 alternative. So we have to deal, which has seconds. We've got to deal with that amendment
Okay.
before we can kind of do something else.
Thank you, Commissioner Little, for correcting me. So any comments on the original amendment to accept the 2024 proposal?
The only other comment I would make is the 2024 proposal. I mean, you look at 27, it's going to match the year we just had, which was a record year for juveniles and a record year for opening weekend.
Any more comments on the amendment to accept the 2026 alternative to Proclamation 26-11? All right. Giuliani, would you call a roll vote, please? So let me back up. By voting yes, you are voting to accept the 2026 alternative. And voting no, you're voting to reject it. Giuliani?
Brett Box,
No.
Stan Butt. Yes. Greg Davenport.
No.
Chris Devaney.
No.
Steve Johnson.
Yes.
Steve Jones.
No.
Ford Little.
Yes.
John McCarty.
Yes.
Rosemary McElhaney.
Yes.
Rhonda Moody.
No.
Chip Saltzman.
Yes.
Haynes Torbett.
Yes.
Ayes have it.
Thank you, Giuliani. One of Are there any other comments from the commission related to Proclamation 26-11 before we take a vote to approve as amended by the three amendments? We've got a bear amendment, we've got a turkey amendment, and we've got a straight wall amendment. All right, I'm going to call a roll vote on Proclamation 26-11. Giuliani? As amended, correct.
Brett Box.
Aye.
Stan Butt.
Yes.
Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Steve Johnson, Steve Jones, Ford Little, John McCarty,
Yes.
Rosemary McElhaney, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Haynes Torbett. All ayes.
Thank you, Giuliani. Moving on, we will move into a rulemaking hearing. We are now moving to the rulemaking hearing section of our agenda today. I'm Commissioner Chair Greg Davenport, and I will serve as presiding officer of the rulemaking hearing. The Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission will be considering several rule items. It's my understanding that this rule has been publicly noticed consistent with applicable law. They have been filed with the Secretary of State's office and have been available to the public notice section of the agency's website. Agency staff have copies of the proposal and red line for anyone that would like a paper copy. The order of the proceeding will be as follows. Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency staff will present information relative to the proposed rule change or new rule. I will recognize the agency staff member accordingly. Commission members will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comment on the proposed rule. Once the commission members have had the opportunity to speak, members of the public will be permitted to provide comment on the rule before the commission. All parties should identify themselves before speaking. As chair, I reserve the right to limit comments and discussion, especially in cases of repetition. This will not be a question and answer session. Members of the public will have 3 minutes for their comment. After an opportunity for public comment, the commission will vote via a roll call vote. With the order of proceedings established, I will now ask Joe Benedict, Chief of Wildlife Division, to come forward with the first rule presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you again. So we have before you today rules and regulations governing hunts. That's 1660-01-08. And I'm sure these slides are in better order than the other ones. So the reason we're bringing this, the primary reason we brought this hunt rule before you today is to add quail quota hunts. You'll recall last year we had our first quota hunt, Bridgestone Firestone, a very successful hunt. Did a lot of habitat work to bring those birds back. We had, I believe there's 3 quota hunts that we issued and folks had fun there. This mirrors the existing quota draw methods that we used last year and that we also use for all of our other hunts. And our general counsel recommended we add this in specifically to quail because quail wasn't listed in our allowance for other quota hunts. So again, no change from last year. We're just adding this language as a section. While we were in there, we did some sort of cleanup items here. We removed the requirement for the postseason waterfowl survey on our WMAs. And then there's a lot of language, handheld drawings, postmarks, mailing dates, and we modernized that to, there's some emails that come out from our license division and folks can email back and then claiming your permit instead of postmarking it and sending it back. So just a lot of modernization there that you have in the red line packets that you've seen. And I want to end this with an apology to you all and the public. I misspoke last meeting, the last bullet there, you'll see, I misspoke that the youth could apply for both the youth and regular elk quota hunts. Susie, our license chief, came up to me in Buffalo Ridge immediately after and asked me where that came from. That was in the red line proclamation that we had, and I'm not sure where it came from, but my apologies to all. That's a mistake. Because of the license draw, the quota system, youth can't draw for both because of the rules around the selection of those permit holders. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we recommend passage of 1660-01-08, rules and regulations governing hunts.
Members of the commission, are there any comments or questions relative to the rule amendment proposed?
Got kind of a question for council. With this, if right now we've got in the elk hunting, we've got 19 tags, correct, that people draw for. If we wanted to add something to that, would this be the conversation to have during this procedure? What I'm thinking is I would like to add a special tag at the discretion of the executive director and the chairman of the TWRA to add 1 tag per year as they see fit and maybe accommodate the young man that we heard from today where his dream was to have an elk hunt.
I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on that because there is a statutory provision that does set forth some allowances, and I think that's related to the raffle. But
Okay.
it lets the director set aside a certain number of tags. So if y'all want to move ahead and let me maybe look at my assistant counsel to look at that statute and get me clarity on that, if you could come back to that in just 1 second. It is, Joe, do you need to be recognized?
Notwithstanding the special nature of that request, the big game proclamation is where we outline the number of permits. But there may be a limitation, like you said, in a different rule that limits us.
I think Commissioner Salzman brings up a good point. Why don't we take about a 10-minute break and let council research this, and then we'll reconvene.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 5 till noon. Patience. We are in the midst of a rulemaking hearing for Rule 1660-0134, Amendment to Chronic Wasting Disease. Commissioner Saltzman has the floor. Commissioner, according to council, I think you can make an amendment to this rule in terms of what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to add one worthy recipient tag to the elk hunt quota that is at the discretion of the director, that must be concurred with by the chairman of the commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion related to this amendment by the commission? I'm going to call a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. Commissioners, are there any other comments or questions related to Rule 1660-01-08? All right, I'm going to call a vote. Miss Juliana. I've been mispronouncing her name for about 3 months now, so.
Brad Box,
Aye.
Stan Butt,
Yes.
Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Chris Devaney, Steve Johnson, Steve Jones,
Yes.
Ford Little, John McCarty,
Yes.
Rosemary McElhaney,
Yes.
Rhonda Moody,
Yes.
Chip Saltzman,
Yes.
Haynes Torbett. All ayes.
All right, the rule passes. Moving on, let's move to rule number 2, Rule 1660-01-08, Rules and Regulations Governing Hunts. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank God. Brandon Ware.
Mr. Chairman, these were presented in different order in the slide deck.
I knew somebody messed my book up. I'll hush.
Mr. Chairman, we're here today, as you mentioned, for 1660-01-34, Rules and Regulations for Chronic Wasting Disease. And I should have mentioned in my previous presentation about the other rule that these were previewed previously to the commission, and the public has had the chance to review those over time. Just a quick couple of slides here just to remind us where we are and the reason for this rule. So chronic wasting disease has been in Tennessee since 2018. We currently have a CWD management zone, which is in green on the screen. We have 3 new positive counties this past fall: Humphreys, Dixon, and Williamson County. Those are brand new. The recommendation from the agency, we have 3 parts to this. The first part is to align the CWD management zone in green there with Deer Management Unit 1. And to do this, we would remove Wayne and Lewis County in the bottom there from the current zone and just realign that zone. The second piece of this would be, we recommend removing the automatic addition of contiguous CWD positive counties. You all put that in rule early in the days of CWD so that the commission wouldn't have to take action. In a couple of years, we were getting positive counties, 2 or 3 times during the season. So things have stabilized now. Our county count is not going up as quickly, so we recommend removing that automatic addition. The existing regulations remain in the CWD management unit, which is no baiting, no feeding, and there are transport restrictions. You must keep the deer in the green counties there on the screen. So that's recommendation 1. The second recommendation would be for those CWD positive counties that are outside the management zone, and those are shown in this orange colored here. I apologize, I'm not UT orange, should have done that. The regulations would include for those areas, no baiting. Again, that was a rule that you all passed in December. The recommendation is to allow no feeding in these positive counties. And also, we recommend that there be no transport restrictions. And we talked about that during the preview. There's several big processors in these counties. It would be hard to move deer around, around those counties to go back home and this and that. So these counties, except for one, are all positive because there's one CWD positive deer there. And which, again, as you know, in a lot of our regulations, we try to reduce the complexity In this case, we're trying to reduce the complexity of transport restrictions. We know that folks need to get their deer to processors. Majority of our hunters use processors. And then just to get the deer back home from their hunting property, it's complex. So that's the second recommendation. And the third recommendation, we added some language into this rule, which we had overlooked for a while, so that we can store and maintain CWD samples for future research needs. So they're in a secure freezer. They're cataloged. We have those. This would just allow that explicitly in the rule. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we recommend passage of 1660-0134, Rules and Regulations for Chronic Wasting Disease.
Thank you, Joe. Members of the commission, there's any questions or comments related to 1660-0134?
I have
Commissioner
one
Bud.
question regarding the storage of the samples. Are those samples from the ELISA test, or are those samples, some of those samples from the HCL test?
I don't know for sure. I think most of the IHC samples that we send, all that material is used up. I think that's kind of the process, because remember, that's a slice. They slice through all the tissue there. So there may be some of those. It's not likely, but the rest would be.
So I know that our determination from ELISA test identifies that there is a positive.
Correct.
And that's what we use as an agency to make the call.
Correct. Two or three tests that are positive.
The reason I'm asking this from a research mindset is that, is there any advantage or plus to further identifying exactly the position of the prions in the location?
Perhaps one day, I'm not sure. I guess the point would be that we're saving these samples as further research goes on with other university partners across the country and really the world about CWD, so that we'd have these samples in our possession to be able to use that for.
Maybe that's a question for Dr. Groves from that standpoint. Briefly, if you want to address that.
Dan Grove, School of Natural Resources, University of Tennessee. To address your question, right now we're actually involved in a couple of different genetic studies. We're trying to be involved depending on funding availability. And so that's one aspect of this, because we can use that tissue to study genetics of the specific animals that either had or did not have the disease, as well as the positive material actually has value in of itself, because in order to generate that for research studies, you've actually got to infect an animal. And so what we're getting as positive material from our wild animals can serve as that, versus having to create like a farm where you create a bunch of infected animals to generate that tissue. So it serves as kind of like a wild version of collecting that sample so they can do further research. So those are some of the key things, because it's a really small sample. It's about the size of a lima bean because we're collecting lymph nodes. But those are two of the things that we're looking at right now, is just to understand better the genetics that are involved, because there's a lot of discussions around that, as well as that the positive material has some value to researchers, just in the fact of it's hard to generate that material in a research setting. So those are just a couple of the things.
One more question while I have you up there.
Sure.
Is there any validity or any additional information from those who have spent a lot of money in trying to develop or identify resistant individuals as far as reproductive advantage there? You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. In terms of resistance, I always start off with, when I get asked those questions, there's a difference between resistance and immunity. And whenever they're talking about CWD resistance, there's not an animal that isn't susceptible to getting the disease. It's just at what level can it get it, and how long does it take for the disease to impact that animal? So that's resistance. Immunity is you're exposed to it and you never get it. And you never develop clinical disease from it or actually get sick from it. And so there is no form of immunity that we are aware of at this point in time with any prion disease. And that goes for, our domestic animals and in people and in deer. But in terms of the resistance, they're still working on that, trying to figure it out, because they're starting to understand there's different variations of prions within the same species. And even certain animals can have, depending on which tissue it's in, the prions can be different in the same animal. So the proteins are just made up of proteins. So you have a shift in an amino acid, it makes it a different protein. And so they're just trying to figure all that out. And that's part of why we're saving this tissue, is to potentially aid in the studies of that, because our genetics of our animals may be different than the genetics of the animals in Wisconsin and the genetics of like the animals in Virginia. And so to be able to understand the disease as a whole, you kind of have to get a big picture. And so that's an additional value of what we're doing.
Thank you. Well, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of rumors, a lot of conjectures out there about this, and it's an ongoing disease that it's with us. And the more we know about it and the more our public is informed about it, then the better off everybody is, in my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grove. Any more comments from the commission? Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. For clarification, can you pull the slide back up where you were discussing the amendments? Okay.
So there's three of them. Here's
right
the first
there,
one.
number
Okay.
one. So do I read that right? You want to remove the automatic addition of contiguous CWD positive counties to zone. What does that mean exactly?
So Commissioner, apologize for not being more clear on that. So back in the early days of chronic wasting disease, there were several meetings we would have in the winter where there'd be new positive counties. And so we tell you all, and you have to amend the zone and change the hunting regulations and change the transport regulations. So previous commissioners, they said, let's just make this automatic because we're getting positive counties. It was so early and new. The disease wasn't spreading. It was already here beyond a couple of counties like Fayette and Hardin County. And so what we said was, instead of the commission having to take action in the middle of, let's say it was late December after a commission meeting, you have to take action to add the transport restrictions and other things. We said, let's just add those counties as they become positive if they touch. And so as it is now, you would have Humphreys, Dixon, and Williamson be part of that growing management, CWD management zone. And so again, these counties have one positive. One of the primary goals, and hunters are our best partner here, is to continue to harvest deer, to keep that population down or reduce it lower if you can. And when those populations are low, you're reducing the spread of that disease in some way, right? That's hunting regulations are really the tool we have in this case to ensure that hunters don't have barriers to continuing to hunt and continuing to harvest those deer. And so these transportation regulations that automatically came in create this barrier. And that was our reasoning for stopping that automatic addition of contiguous counties.
So everything in green and everything in orange there's no feeding, no baiting, right?
There's no, yes.
Okay. And moving forward, and for how long, up to what time frame? If, let's say, Hickman County gets dirty in 2 months, what do you do with Hickman County?
The baiting rule that you all passed would automatically include Hickman County in this case as an area that's prohibited from baiting.
Automatically
So there is automatic things.
So
right.
where I'm confused, it says remove the automatic addition, which is very concerning to me. So it doesn't sound like that we're removing the automatic addition the way that's explained.
Right.
For the green.
Commissioner Johnson, if I may, I think what Joe's saying is that second sentence means that a county east of the Tennessee River would not become subject to the regulations of the green counties, which are transport prohibitive regulations. Joe, could you expand upon that?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, we got the green, we got the orange, and any county that goes dirty is no feeding, no baiting.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Box.
We plowed this ground before, but I want to mention out loud one more time that we are putting counties in green that have never had a positive result, correct?
They're remaining in green, yes, sir.
So I just feel like we're being somehow not consistent if we're treating these Humphreys, Dixon counties one way, and we're treating these northern, western counties a different way. So do you know, or can you state which counties have, in the green, have never had a positive result?
Going to look at Mark. I think is it Benton County, Lake County? Say it out loud.
Good morning, or maybe afternoon now, Commissioners. Mark McBride, Assistant Chief. I believe it is Lake, Obion, and Benton at this point that are not positive in those green areas. One thing to consider in this conversation is how transportation regulations would then apply there too.
So let me add to that, because that was actually a thought I had as well. So Commissioner Box, when we created the management zone, obviously there were counties that were not positive. One of the reasons we created the zone, you'll recall a few years ago when your wife was on the commission and probably chair, we had a map of counties you could go into, but you couldn't come back into, right? So the movement was really hampering hunter success, hunter effort. And so when we created this green zone here, this CWD management zone, we wanted to allow folks that maybe live in Lake County and hunt in Fayette County to go back and forth with their deer, because CWD has been shown to be in all those counties. So the only difference between the CWD management zone and the agency's recommendation for these new positive counties is you can't go from the zone outside of the zone. So within the zone, any hunter that harvests a deer in green can go anywhere to a processor, taxidermist, bring it to their house.
Okay.
So they're not restricted now. So in the old days, I'll use that term probably poorly, but when we did have positive and high-risk counties and you could move and you couldn't move, that's the time when there was a sort of a penalty, if you would, for those counties that didn't have it or had low prevalence. But right now, you can move deer all around those green counties to get to your home if you process it yourself, processor, or taxidermist. So again, the only issue now would be if you're in a green county, you can't go into a white county or a red county.
But we are also blocking baiting in those counties, even though they have no positive samples.
Based on the rule that you all passed in December, yes.
Commissioner Butt.
Just for clarification, and I know this will make several hunters in some of those red counties happy. Early on when I came on the commission, then I got several calls from Wayne County or hunters from Lawrence County who hunted in Wayne County that couldn't transport their deer back to Lawrence County. So it's my understanding that now that they can do that, right?
Yes, sir. The proposal.
So those other red counties, they would fall in that same situation. So
yes, sir.
They can move, even when it's red, they can move deer to processors or to taxidermists in the white counties, even though they join them. So
that's correct. If this rule passes as we have it, that's correct.
All right. So that was my understanding, and I think that would afford hunters a better opportunity that are conscious about what's going on, but yet they're prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCarty.
I'd like to clarify if a county that is in white has a positive during deer season when a hunter legally has bait out, does that county immediately become illegal to hunt over bait?
I believe it does based on the rule.
As much as I'm not for the baiting, I do want to protect the hunters in that county so that they would not be prohibited from hunting immediately after that positive was issued. Is there a way for us to clarify that they shouldn't put bait out, but they could continue to hunt if they were legally baiting before that?
We've talked a little bit about this of when the agency would make a recommendation or what would happen. I'm going to look to General Counsel Grimes. Was he looking up something? Maybe he wasn't. Yes. Okay. So based on the rule, and there may not be a timing language in the baiting rule, but I believe it says any positive county or a county in the CWD management zone, hunting over bait is prohibited. So, yeah.
So my recollection on that rule was that the agency had to notice that county via press release.
Yes.
I think to get to Commissioner McCarty's question, practically, I think the timing is going to probably mean the season will be over, so that won't happen mid-season, because one, you've got to wait for the sample to get back. Two, you have to be able to notice it appropriately. And then, just finally, just the timing. So I think director actually made the statement that we didn't want someone to buy this bait permit and then 2 weeks later cannot use it. So I think practically this is going to be a season by season consideration from the agency's perspective.
Another point here, some states do that already. They don't change their regulations, even if they got a positive deer on their first day of their season. Their policy, internal policy, is they set the regulations, they go through the season, they collect their samples, and at the end of the season, that's when they kind of remake whatever maps they have and regulations that would follow. So this would be consistent with other states, for example.
I mean, I think I'm good with that. What I don't want us to do is to penalize hunters that were legally following the law and then them not be able to hunt or use their permit. If there was a way, and I understand the notice procedures, how complicated that is. If there was a way they could keep hunting but not allowed to continue to put bait out at that time, I think it would be great, but I do understand the complexity. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Ms. Juliana, would you call the vote?
Brad Box,
Aye.
Stan Butt, Greg Davenport, Chris Devaney, Steve Johnson, Steve Jones, Ford Little, John McCarty, Rosemary McElhaney, Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Haynes Torbett. All ayes.
Rule passes. Thank you for your patience. Now we'll move to our final rule. We heard this rule and took public comment in December when we were at the Chattanooga meeting, and continued the hearing until March so we could have discussions with our General Assembly on this issue. There is a bill. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is defer. Would you mind giving a summary of the bill? There's a bill that has been in the legislature. So we continued this matter until now, until that bill worked its way through the legislature. And I'd like to ask Council Grimes to give us an update on the status of that bill.
Yes, there's a bill in the General Assembly right now, Senate Bill 2173 by Senator Ken Yeager and House Bill 2091 by Representative Powers. That bill has actually passed the Senate, and it is slated to be heard in committee Monday morning. So my understanding is they are going to move forward, and this sets the price points for a North Cumberland OHV permit. And actually, Deputy Director Ware's presentation, I believe he's got a slide that actually has those price points which mirror the bill, the language of the bill.
Thank you, Council Grimes. Deputy Director Ware.
Thank you. And thank you for that update, Counselor. I was going to defer to you also to do that. But basically what Council just mentioned, the reason that we are bringing this rule back before you today, this rule will mirror or align the wording of these two rules. We'll have to open up the WMA rule and the license and permit rule to effectuate the OHV permit. But the language that will go in each of these that I'll show you today will be exactly aligned with what's going through the Senate and the House right now. That in effect, if it passes both sides and becomes law, it would take effect this July 26. If for whatever reason it didn't go through in statute, then we would still have this rule in place, and we would take our normal process that the commission would take, and it would basically go into effect July 27 because it would have to go through GovOps and all that stuff. Also, just a quick note, in the current bill, I think there's language in there, Tori, that In 4 years' time, the commission could revisit it during your normal rulemaking process, and these would be the rules that we would open back up if there were to be a change in the price. And again, this is, I think it's the 4th time I've got up and talked to you about this, so you've seen a lot of this before. We've gone through different iterations of it, but I won't go through all that. But just a reminder here about how we got here and where it is in Title 70 that states, outlines the Off-Highway Vehicle Act, recognizes our authority to set these fees and develop programs. And then also that it designated that we're supposed to be collecting these fees and designating them for a self-sustained OHV program. So with the bill passage or with this going into rule, however it takes effect, we will finally, hopefully, have that dedicated funding strictly for the OHV program. Now, there were a couple, while we had this rule open, that weren't directly related to OHVs, a couple of wildlife-related issues that fell under this WMA rule too. These were already policy, agency policy. We don't allow planning by the general public. That's done by sharecrop agreements and by our staff. So we just placed it formally in this rule. And then other uses of public hunting areas have to be in accordance with posted notices. If we wanted to post a trail that was foot traffic only, for instance, that wasn't in the current WMA rule, where we could enforce that if someone was on there on a four-wheeler or something. So this will formalize that so that our managers and officers can cite those individuals if they're doing something they shouldn't be. Now to the OHV portion, again, this is the language, and in this rule on the WMA, we just had to designate and spell out that a high impact permit is required for hoofed animals or biking on other WMAs. And now on North Cumberland WMA, the new off-highway vehicle permit would be required to ride anywhere on North Cumberland on designated trails. It also defines what an OHV is in the rule. So that would be the only change to this particular rule as it relates to OHVs, is just putting that language in there about the requirement that at least one adult in a OHV on North Cumberland has to have that permit. So with that, the agency recommends passage of 1660-0114, the rules and regs for WMAs.
Thank you, Deputy Director Ware. Any comments or thoughts from the commission?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Butt.
Commissioner Ware, or Deputy Ware, could you update us on the occurrence of riders in the area where they were creating trails and how the agency looked at that, and then what we did to address that issue a year or so ago is they were just run off the trail designated and just start forming their own and show up on some of those programs.
Right, and I may ask John Mike to come up and update us. But what we had started doing was identifying those illegal trails or trails that they would create where they shouldn't be, and marking the area better where it was a designated trail or if it was a closed trail. So those trails that are not marked open are closed to riding. So that gives us a little more enforcement authority. At the same time, we were working with the Nature Conservancy and our agency to develop an official North Cumberland trail map, because kind of what you alluded to with some of the other trail programs that they could just upload onto their GPS, it would show anywhere that another rider in that program had been. So it was showing if they were going down the road or creating their own trail or on a designated trail, they would pop up on the next person's iPad or GPS. So we're working with it. I think that's still ongoing, isn't it, John? If you may have more specifics on that, on where we are on developing that official map.
John Mike, Region 4 Wildlife Program Manager. Yes, we've been working with TNC, with their GIS folks. We've been working with TWRA GIS personnel to develop a digital map. And as Deputy Director Ware mentioned, some of the confusion that was associated with the previous digital trail, it wasn't an official TWRA digital trail. A lot of the companies were depending on riders. They would just ride and downloaded everything on their GPS unit and submit it to those companies, and those companies would put out a map, and they'd put a disclosure on there that these may not be official trails. Some of it was across private properties. We had complaints from adjoining private landowners of North Cumberland that, hey, we're getting OHV traffic. You guys need to do something about it. So this is all cutting edge right now with these trails. that once we get all the kinks worked out of it, it's available right now, but what we're finding out, it's not user friendly to download, but once it is downloaded, a lot of these riders, as Sheila and some of the other campground owners can tell you, most of the riders are dependent on their GPS unit or tablet to tell them where they're at. So this is going to make it easier for the riders to know exactly where they're at. It's going to make it easier for our commission personnel if they catch somebody off one of those and they have a tablet to do enforcement.
You and I know that we had concerns from a few property holders, where riders were abusing their privileges, if that's proper terminology. But, that's one thing that I wanted the public to know, that we were addressing that, so that they at least need to be considerate of the trails that are marked and provided, rather than just using a one-time off trail designation from some of these riders that just wanted to go anywhere they wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners' comments? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, sir. What is the agency and our enforcement officer's position on people that have already purchased permits for the year, and then the new rules and pricing goes into effect, I guess, sometime in July, late July? Is that what I heard? Was that July 27th? I thought it was July 1, but so it sounds like that bill has passed the Senate and probably passed in the House. So there's a scenario where you've got people that have already bought a permit, and then the new pricing goes into effect. So what is our position on those who have already bought a permit at the lower price?
Dale Grandstaff, Colonel of the Law Enforcement Division. Commissioner Johnson will instruct the officers to use discretion on how they look at that. It'll be looked at on the purchase date. And then after the new price point goes into place, they'll look at it and adjust for it. I have Lieutenant Colonel Hammonds and Major Prater here with me. We've already had discussions on this, and we'll direct our officers to use discretion on that and go about the date of purchase.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Juliana, would you call the vote, please?
Brad Boggs.
Aye.
Stan Butt.
Yes.
Greg Davenport.
Yes.
Chris Devaney.
Aye.
Steve Johnson. Steve Jones.
Aye.
Ford Little.
Yes.
John McCarty.
Yes.
Rosemary McElhaney. Rhonda Moody. Chip Saltzman.
Yes.
Haynes Torbett. Chairman, all ayes.
Rule passes.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, this is the second rule that is part of the OHV rule hearing.
Excuse
This
me.
would be the rules and regulations governing licenses. So if you're good, I'll go ahead and present this one. So within the license and permit fee rule that we had, worked on last year and had the entire license package, the North Cumberland OHV permit, the new permit, was to be a part of that rule. We were unable to pull it out separately. So this is, again, placing in the rule the establishment of the new permit. And these price points, if you'll remember, we went through a couple of years of changes on where we landed on that. And based on the modeling and the projections for the funding needed, this would have been the first year pricing in that graduated approach that we'd covered last year. This is the exact price point that is included in the current bill. So if it passes, again, this would align it with that statute, with what's in the law. And then there is also language in there, should the commission choose to, after evaluating how much revenue is generated by this, how much is needed for the program, then they could reevaluate the prices at least 4 years down the road. And then also just a couple of footnotes to that, in that fee schedule on that table that will be included in the rule. Again, it just explains in this rule that a North Cumberland permit will be required for at least one adult in each vehicle. It's not required for every individual. And it describes that if someone is guiding for a fee and they accept compensation, they would have to get the North Cumberland guide license.
Thank you, Deputy Director Ware. Any comments from the commission? Commissioner Johnson.
Are there any ATV, OHV riding opportunities where you buy a license to ride that can gain access to the North Cumberland WMA? So to clarify, is there any scenario where an OHV ATV rider would have bought a permit outside of the North Cumberland WMA, but makes their way over to the North Cumberland WMA? And where I'm going with is the disparity in pricing between the two, and then what do you do?
Well, I believe, and I would rely on the local staff there, but I believe there are portions of Brimstone or what's the other one? Windrock that are adjacent to the WMA. I don't know how many points there are connectors between that private property and the WMA. I would assume that there are instances where they could go from one property to the other.
Right. So how do we manage that, enforce that with that capability and the price disparity?
Well, with any of these, whether it's an inspection point, where it's a checkpoint that we've established, or whether they're doing routine patrol, they're checking them, on the trails where they're riding. So at that time, if they were on the WMA property, and again, it would be a case-by-case basis. If they had a permit, the trail wasn't marked well, or they genuinely didn't realize that they had gone onto the state property, then that would be taken into consideration if they had a private property permit. But the requirement would be, if they're riding on North Cumberland, they should have the state permit.
I'm going to recognize Counselor Grimes and get his opinion.
So for a little context, and I want to make a little point of clarification, one of the questions that we had in the break was, what if a rider on North Cumberland, say, may row down to Brushy Mountain and may cross or get on Catoosa? That was the question that we had from a couple of the folks up there. I did make a couple calls during the break, and actually there is no connector. Private lands separate Catoosa and North Cumberland. So I don't think at this point it would really be appropriate to let this bleed over into Catoosa, since there's so much very small areas that are potentially available there, because the private property and public roads that have to be used to get to those areas.
Yes, again, this would be only for North Cumberland, and most of the other WMAs like Catoosa, if they have riding available, it's generally on the roads that are open to regular vehicle traffic. And in that case, they would still have to have a WMA permit or license or a high impact permit to be doing that on that WMA.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to the industry folks that have been here time and time again. We've been on a journey together on this, and mostly it's been good. Sometimes it's been tough, but I also want to encourage you to reach out to Senator Yeager and tell him thank you for the willingness to work with the agency and you guys. He's been very helpful in this. And I think this is about the best place we could be compared to where we were last year. So again, I want to say thank you for being here every time and your input and allowing me to call you late at night after I put my kids to bed. So thank you.
Any other commissioners? Ms. Juliana, would you call a vote, please?
Brad Boggs. Stan Buck. Greg Davenport. Chris Devaney. Steve Johnson. Steve Jones. Ford Little. John McCarty.
Yes.
Rosemary McElhaney. Rhonda Moody, Chip Saltzman, Hens Torbett. All ayes.
The rule passes.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this concludes our agenda, but I would like to open it up to any members of the public that would like to speak. Fred?
It's going to be an easy one today. Just want to tell you all and invite you, there is a muzzleloader flintlock show, one of the nicest in the nation, going on right now today in Knoxville, about 5 miles from here. And if you want to do any due diligence or whatever to look at it, this would be a fantastic opportunity to see part of what I'm talking about. It's at the Jubilee Center on Callahan Road, 5 miles from here. Fantastic opportunity. I wish anybody would go. It's open through the rest of the day, probably till 5 o'clock, and tomorrow morning. There's your opportunity. I hope you'll go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members from the public? Yes, sir. Just please state your name.
My name's Scott D'Amico. I own DTF Power Sports. And as we were talking a minute ago about that, what do you do if I want to ride at Tecumseh or Tahusa or and Roosevelt and Chuck Swan? What permit do I have to have? Because that's not going to be, that's not a WMA or that's not the North Cumberland Pass. And you can ride on all of them. What pass do I need?
That would be the high impact conservation permit that was required before.
So we're going to have 2 passes now?
No, that's the one that was already existing. That's
Okay.
for hoofed animals, bicycles, or any type of vehicle.
Okay, what about the new pass when this passes?
It'll be specific for North Cumberland,
Okay.
Cumberland OHV.
So then we'll have to buy the high impact if we want to ride over there at them other ones.
Or the WMA and hunting license during hunting season, or if you were accessing the WMA that way like they had previously.
So you say during hunting season, does that mean you can only ride on it during hunting?
I don't know what the specific regulations are when those trails are open on those areas, so I would have to look at
They're
the
open
guide
all
or the
the
local
time.
manager.
It's also, they're really close to the North Cumberland. Like I say, it's Mount Roosevelt, Chuck Swan, they're real close. And you can ride on them properties too.
If you're okay with this, I'd like to recognize John Mike. Would you come to the microphone, please, and attempt to answer this gentleman's questions?
I can't speak for Catoosa or Mount Roosevelt, but Chuck Swan is different. Chuck Swan is a state forest. It's also WMA, but it's under state forest or TDF's jurisdiction. At Chuck Swan, there's no permit, but it's very restrictive where you can ride.
But you are allowed to ride.
Yes, but it's very restrictive. It's shut down during the big game quota hunts, turkey hunts, deer hunts, where the only people that can be in there is the quota hunters.
Correct. But if we're there, what passes do we need?
At Chuck Swan, nothing, but like I said, it's very restrictive. Basically, the main forest road is shut down to four-wheelers. In that you can go across, but you can't travel up and down. And part of that is a safety precaution because they do have a lot of active logging at Chuck Swan.
And what about, got a question too about Turley, over there in the WMA. I know they put a gate up over there. There's been rumors and, rumors are rumors. They're wanting to close that whole section off over there towards the new river section.
I'd recommend you talk to Keith. I know a little bit about that. Part of that is involving some of the coal mines, and I think we talked about that at the core meeting. Keith answered that question, but part of that, and there hasn't been gates put up, but part of that, number one, is that some of that property is under a bond where it's been mined, and the coal companies are trying to get out from underneath their bond and be released by OSM. They went in there and fixed the roads under their bond, and I guess it was the last time we had a big rain, and ATV traffic went in, completely messed it up. Coal companies were going to have to go back. OSM and the coal companies requested that we try to shut down the traffic until those roads settle, and so the coal companies can get out of their bond.
So what happens when they get out of the bond? Does that go back to the state, or does it go back?
It's already state property, but we don't own the mineral rights, and which includes coal. So that corporation or company, whatever the group may be, if they want to sell that coal to a coal company to mine it, they have the rights, but they have to go through TDEC, they have to go through OSM to get their permit. And basically it'll have a map of the footprint, and they have to post a bond and they have to meet all the requirements of that permit. If not, they lose their bond.
And then we were talking about the Trail 50, the connecting trail. I suppose you guys, TWRA supposedly got $1 million grant to put that trail connector in. It goes from, like New River all the way through Royal Blue to Sunquest. So what about all that money we just spent on that, you guys got for the grant for that new trail system? Where does it start and stop at now?
You'd have to talk to Seth on that. I know they were working on a connector trail.
I mean, they've already got the $1 million grant, and they used it to put that connector trail in. Now they took the $1 million grant. Are they not going to open the trail? They're going to shut it off now? They just took the $1 million. You can't take $1 million.
I'd have to look to see which trail you're talking about. I know they were doing a connector trail.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move forward. We'll be happy to, Mr. Mike, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your public comments. And if you've got some future questions, we addressed it with the agency after the meeting. Any other public comments? Commissioners, that concludes our agenda for the day. Is there any comments from any commissioners? May I have can I get a second? All in favor, say aye.